Good morning, friends. Ash here, NPNP News. It's May 3rd, 2026, and I've been laying back watching and observing the things that have been coming out, the stories that everybody's talking about. And before I get started, I wanted to make one more comment about what happened with David Wilcock, because we're not, of course, sure, but I wanted to also tell you more about my own story of what happened to me. And I have some experience with, I think that what happened with Wilcock was, it could have only been like two different things, right? One was that, okay, let's just say he's not depressed, and he didn't kill himself. So then obviously you have to go under the angle of, well, he could have been, they could have used skull to voice to skull technology to do it, right? Which is that they can actually literally put voices into your head. And the way I know that they can do that is because it was done to me. It was done to me to make me try to kill myself for years. In fact, that was done to me, I believe. And of course, I can't prove it. I can only tell you my own story, which is that I suffered from very, very serious and debilitating, what people now call panic attacks, or there are other names. Some people call it a panic attack, where you just start to feel like you can't breathe. Your heart rate can sometimes speed up. You can profusely begin to sweat. It's sort of feels like you might be having a heart attack. People call it a panic attack, and you know they vary in how long they last and how severe they are. They can go from something as simple as just maybe 10 or 15 minutes. You're a little short of breath and maybe feeling a little nervous and tense, to over 1 hour or more episodes where you are completely debilitated, bedridden, can't move, frozen. And that's what was happening to me around in my past. And so I think what happens to certain people that are either a way shower or somebody that's connected to the light is that the darkness wants you to die, because when you die, it helps them to stay stronger, the dark, right? And when I don't know what year it was, I lost a lot of years to depression and not being willing to take any medication for it, because I understood that if I took that medication, it would deaden my senses and it would deaden me. And so I think what happened, and the only way, well, let me put it this way, the only way I found my way out of that darkness, of the skull to text stuff, was that I realized it's not my voice, right? And most people can't make that. Maybe most people who are being subjected to that don't understand what it was, or it just wears you out to the point where you can't shield yourself from it. There is ways to shield yourself from it. There's ways to. The only real way to get away from these people is to raise your vibration to such a high state that they don't want to be near you anymore. That's the only way I found to. The lower your vibration is, the more likely it's going to be that you're going to get, that you might have an attachment of some sort that is siphoning off your loosh. And they got their a good amount of it out of me, unfortunately, before I could figure out what was going on. And so I think what they may have done that too, because Wilcock looks sick to me, right? You can see he's sick. He's even mentioning in the video that he's losing a lot of weight, and that's the same exact thing that happened to me. I had this wasting disease back in 2012, where I was just getting ready to die. I went to all the doctors. I went to the 9/11 doctors because I had no insurance. Those are the only doctors that would even help me. And, I basically got better by the grace of God. It wasn't any doctor that healed me, but the way I got healed myself of the way I stopped the panic attacks from happening was I began to understand through my own research as well that, okay, this is something that could be done to you, and I don't think this is coming from me. This sadness, this depression, this whatever this is, it really isn't me. It's not mine. It's something else. That's what I understood about it at the end. And it was like one of those things that once you understand what it is, it doesn't work on you anymore. So either that or I was protected in some other way that he wasn't. I don't know. But I know that many people that this happens to, they cannot defend themselves from it, and it does end up making them kill themselves. And so that could have been what happened with Wilcock. The other angle of it is that he's a deep state player along, and he's just the gatekeeper, which is that, in other words, there's certain people that give you some information, right? But never all the information. Like an Alex Jones, right? He'll give you some stuff. He'll give you a basic thing that makes it look like he's a way shower and that he's really showing you everything. But then again, there's other topics he'll never bring up, right? Sinister racket outside Home Depot now. You're paying for. You know what they're doing at Home Depot now? They got the workers, the illegal alien workers, little tent right here, a little trailer right here. You can get the illegal alien worker right at Home Depot now, legally. This usually goes on illegally in New York. There's parts of Brooklyn where illegal aliens just queue up on the corners and every day. And if you're a construction company and you want to subcontract out some work and get some cheap labor, if you know the right corners to show up on and you pay in cash, you can get cheap labor. Talk about interesting, right? I'm in a larger building, right, where I live, so I have a problem with my bathroom. There's a leak in the bathroom sink, a slow leak, right? Okay, great. Call up maintenance. Can you send a guy up to fix the leak? Sure, we'll send him up. 3 days later, a guy comes. 3 days later, somebody shows up. And the guy doesn't speak a word of English, not one. I'm talking to the guy. I'm assuming he's understanding me. I'm describing the problem. And he just puts his hand up, and I realize this guy doesn't speak any English. Not one word. How the hell do you get a job like that? How do you get a job in the United States when you don't speak a word of English? Could I go over to Italy with not speaking a word of Italian and get a plumbing job? I don't think so. There's Pablo Flores. He's a day laborer. Is he illegal? Is he a legal or illegal alien? I don't know. But he's at the Home Depot waiting for you to come there and give him work. I'm just curious, if I'm a white male and I'm an American citizen, can I stand out there too and get a job? Or no? Only these guys are. It just says workers available. It doesn't say who they are or where they're from, right? How about American citizen workers available? Could we have that? Why are you making it easier for illegal aliens to get jobs here? Data Overload 9 said, I was so eagerly waiting for your opinions on the newest White House Donald Trump attempt. Ash, too bad they couldn't fit a crane for another perfect photo shoot to sell more t-shirts. Yeah, he wasn't on the ground like the other time. But that was an old wrestling trick. Don't you remember, right? They used to have like the little blood bag behind his ear or whatever, or he has a little razor blade in his hand. Cut yourself, right? Remember the Hulk Hogan stuff? He'd go under the ring and he'd come out all bloody. Yeah, he had a little razor blade in his armband or whatever he was wearing on his wristbands, right? He had a little wristband on he had razor blade in there. He'd cut up his head a little bit. It'll bleed a lot, right, when you cut your head. Looked like he got busted wide open. He's busted wide open. Remember that? Yeah, it's all fake. You know what the odds are of a bullet missing him by that little? Come on, man. Plus, they said if anybody took that shot, it's like an easy shot from that. Right? Even like a novice could hit him. Yeah, that whole thing, that had to be fake. Some of my other listeners are really fed up. One of them's fed up with New York. She's like, I'm getting out. I'm just tired of listening to the whole story. I get it. I'm tired of it too. I'm tired of the whole thing. And that's what they try to do. They try to wear you down, right? They just keep showing you more negative, bad stuff. That voice to skull stuff is real. It's definitely real. And I used to think, wow, I'm sitting here in New York where they got all this stuff, they could just be beaming it into my head. And there's other stuff they could do to you. They can make you get sick. They can make you have to take a shit. They can do all kinds of stuff to you with some of these things. And I've had it all done to me, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure. All of a sudden, you're like, I'm on the computer. Whoa, what's going on? I got to go to the bathroom 4 times in one day? That's not normal. I'm not talking pee either, right? It's like they do stuff to you. They can fuck your whole body up. They did it to me for years, and I almost died. I don't know how I didn't die. I didn't know how to protect myself then. I was sick. I was dying. Doctors are saying, hey, you better go home and write a will or something. I don't know. We don't know what's wrong with it. We thought you had stomach cancer, but you don't. I said, I'm a 9/11 survivor. I was living for months breathing the smoke of 9/11 into my house. It was all in my house. I couldn't escape it. There was no HEPA filter that could fix it. I was in my building watching people die around me for years, thinking, just waiting. I was figuring I was going to die too. I just didn't know when. Then in 2012, I got so sick, I figured, well, now this must be when. This must be when. And either I jumped timelines or God, in God's grace, spared my life because I didn't know any other way. I had given myself over to God long before that, but I'd said, if it's my time, it's my time. But apparently it wasn't my time. Somebody upstairs said, you're not checking out quite yet. We got other plans for you. You gotta make NPNP news. You gotta make We Are the News. You gotta start warning people in 2020 about don't take the vaccine. You gotta start talking to people about synthetic biology. You gotta start warning people about quantum dot technology being brought out by Bill Gates. Right? That's when I saw quantum dot, I realized that's the plan. How are they going to get that into your body? COVID-19. That's how they did it. We couldn't figure out, I couldn't figure it at first, what was the mechanism, right? It was COVID-19. That's why it's called COVID-19. It was coming out in 2019, right? That's why. They already planned it. And you fell for it, right? You let them put a mask over your face so you couldn't speak. Maybe you took the vax, maybe you didn't. Hopefully you didn't, but a lot of people did, unfortunately. Mike Johnson says Secret Service must tighten up. Well, if you're letting a guy get, 50 feet from the president with 2 guns, yeah, I'd say you better tighten it up. Plus, did you see that the dog had sniffed the guy out in the room? Plus, you got, 7 cops, or looks like a bunch of cops and maybe a few Secret Service setting up the metal detector, right? The metal detector wasn't set up yet. That's why he planned to come in then. He bum rushed his way through the metal detector, shot one cop. One cop got a shot off at him but missed. But you didn't bum rush him, right? You should have tackled that guy. But I guess you can. He has a shotgun aimed at you. It's kind of hard to do, right? How did this guy get through multiple checkpoints and get that close? Unless he let him, right? Can't anyone confirm there's at least 2 different people acting as the president? Still to this day, nobody's confirmed it. Because one's got silver hair and one doesn't. I don't understand how people don't seem to notice that. Or they just do and they're just exhausted at this point. They don't care. Right? We already know that. We're just waiting for it to be told to everybody so we can move on to whatever the next thing is we're going to be doing. The next government or whatever it's going to be. Some people are saying, oh, well, Trump was here just as a chaos agent to destroy everything. But he's not, it's not really what he's doing. If he was going to destroy everything, he would have, destroyed the deep state inside this country. He would have given us the med beds by now and the free energy devices and the anti-gravitic craft. Right? Hey, Spirit, you want an anti-gravitic craft? How about we'll save Spirit, we'll come out with these new aircraft and we'll blow the whole industry away. Nobody will be able to compete with us. I'll get you from LA to New York in 10 minutes. Nobody can compete. Plus, you'll never crash. Guarantee, never crash again. Right? Mali defense minister dead. Russian forces withdraw after attack. So there's a lot of problems in Africa. You have Nigeria, there's a rape festival apparently going on. Women are being chased through the streets by men, their clothes stripped off and raped. They're calling it a fertility festival apparently. So I don't know what's going on in Nigeria, but it's bad. Mali's bad, Nigeria's bad. I think Congo's bad. I think South Africa's bad. Africa's not looking good. Not even close. Remember, there was, I think, 6 or 7 different countries at one point that were in coup in Africa. So Africa is fighting for its freedom. I was checking out Ari at Home. Keep It Moving IRL stream. That was a great show. A lot of interesting musicians. It's just amazing the talent that's walking around New York City. People that can just... seems like there's an MC on every other corner. It's insane. Singers on every other block. Beautiful people everywhere. It is a city like that. I mean, if you like beautiful people, not too many other cities that can compete with New York. Maybe France. I don't know about anymore. New York. Maybe parts of Italy. But, in terms of beautiful women from every part of the world, you probably won't be able to find too many other places like where there's such a concentration of beautiful people as New York. I tell you that. We have the beautiful and the ugly. Everything in between. If you can't find your flavor here, you probably can't find it in this ice cream store. Right? And that's a blessing, of course. Justice Department indicts former FBI Director Comey again. So that's one of the big stories that broke. Comey's indicted again for the 8647 seashell tweet that he put out, which is so obvious, right? I mean, you couldn't. That's so obviously a threat. I mean, what else is it, right? Oh, you just thought about 86? That's funny. Why'd you pick that number? Top Anthony Fauci advisor indicted for criminal conspiracy against the United States. That's the other big story. That's a huge story because that's one step away from Fauci becoming and getting indicted, which I'm assuming should come soon. Is that even the real Fauci? I mean, how do we know, right? They're just switching everybody out now. You don't know. All these Hollywood stars don't look the same. They go away for a while. They come back with a facelift or something, and they're different, right? You saw Prince Charles meeting with Trump the whole time? That was a disaster. What do they come here? Once every 25 years? It shows you right there how much they really like New York and the United States. Yeah, we'll come twice a lifetime. That's about it. We don't like you too much. We just want to sort of show that we like you. Of course they don't like New York. We're the... what do you think? We were the ones that... we fought the British to a standstill. A lot of people don't realize that the British came back in 1812 and burnt the White House to the fucking ground. So, really, you don't have any business being in the White House now. As far as I'm concerned, your people came here and burnt this place to the ground. And now you want us to welcome you and your pedophile family? I don't think so. That's the last time you'll see Charles on American soil. And that's good. That's in good riddance as far as I'm concerned. To you and your family. Harrowing video shows CNN's Wolf Blitzer left shaken and missing a shoe. Yeah, he was scared. You see the one old guy who just stayed at the table eating his dinner? He's like, I paid for this food. I'm not getting down on the ground. Want to come in and shoot me? Go ahead. I don't think you're looking for me, right? I'm not worried about it. Saw some other woman. She was taking the bottles of wine off the table. Hey, this is why not? Hey, you gonna finish that hors d'oeuvre plate? No? Okay. You mind if I snatch those pigs in a blanket off your plate? You're on the ground. You don't mind, right? Hell yeah, I'm gonna get fed. I don't give a shit. Some suckers out there, when they want to kill somebody, really, they send a hit team. They don't send one guy who's a teacher and has no idea what he's fucking doing, right? When big time people want someone killed, they do it the right way. They send a team. Like when they shot Kennedy, they didn't shoot him with Oswald. Come on, dude. Really? You think that Oswald had a miracle shot from the 6th floor of the book suppository building with an old An old Italian bolt-action rifle? Come on, man. And he pulled off two of the most miraculous shots in 7 seconds? I don't think so. No, there was 7 guys shooting at that car all at the same time. At least a few people were. Funny though, the car didn't have any bullet holes in it, did it? I always remember that about. I always remember how his head snapped back. Somebody hit him with a fucking rifle, right? Like, shot, it looked like. From like maybe, I don't know, less than 100 yards. I heard all kinds of rumors that there was a guy actually in the sewer grate that shot him. And there was some other guy. There was guys on the knoll, on the grassy knoll. They said 6 shots got fired out there, right? This guy only apparently fired though 1 shot at one of the cops and then so who were all the other shots? It's amazing that this guy wasn't shot at all, apprehended, put onto the ground real quick. Usually when somebody's in there like that, they just, turn your ass into Swiss cheese, shoot you up like 6, 7, 8 times, right? So all those 6 shots missed him apparently, right? Because he didn't shoot off 6 shots. He only shot off 1 shot, I thought. So 5 other shots got fired, and one of the shots we saw missed, right? He almost shot some of the other cops when he did that guy. That was a bad shot to take because there was other people behind that were almost in the way that you almost shot, right? Dramatic video shows gunman trying to rush past security at White House Correspondents' Dinner. And he did. All those guys are facing the wrong way, right? When you're security, you're supposed to face the other way out, right? You notice that most of those guys had their back turned to the area where they were supposed to be surveilling, they weren't expecting any problem, right? But that's, when you're security, you always expect a problem. You always have to be on point. That's why it's a really hard job. Like if you're at a post, I had a job once where I was just at a post, stand there, no walking, no looking, nothing else. No checking IDs, you just at a post, and that's all you're there to do. If they tell you swarm somebody, or you move to a place, but that's hard because you're just standing still and you can't move. You got to keep your vision around you at all times, right? The White House Correspondents' Dinner gunman assembled a long weapon in an unsecured room, right? That room shouldn't have been unsecured, especially if it's right next to the metal detectors. Why was that room not secured? And there was a cop with a canine unit, and the canine unit smelled him and was pulled back, like instead of going in the room, like they wanted to let it happen. The dog smelled the guy. Something was wrong, right? It smelled it. You know what the dog smelled? His fear, his adrenaline pumping 100, heart going 175 beats a minute, right? You're about to bum rush a bunch of cops with a shotgun. I'd say your heart rate would probably be around 175. Mine would be if I was going to do some insane shit like that. I forgot to mention I wrote that I watched David Wilcock's last podcast, some of it. And he looked like he was sick to me and lost weight. He was even talking about his stomach issues that had plagued him. He might have had the same wasting disease I struggled with. I think he did. And that killed a lot of people. It almost killed me. I barely got out of it. And I only got out of it because I know somebody that's a healer. I'll just leave it there. Who's a powerful healer that helped me get a little bit of my health back so that I could, because I was pretty much done. When you're 152 pounds, down from 200, yeah, you know you're in trouble. You lost almost 60 pounds. Something happens to your body, too. When you start to fast like that, it eats up a lot of the disease. And just prayer and, I got lucky. I think I was obviously spared for some other reason, is my guess. I don't know about Wilcock and what his background was, but I started to not really listen to everything he was saying because, my intuition was telling me that something wasn't right about it. Somebody like that, when you have that much data, he couldn't have read that many books, which means that some of that data is being fed to you, I'm assuming, right? Which means you're a gatekeeper that's putting out certain information that they're telling you to put out, and if you don't, and if you vary off that, they'll kill you. That's what a gatekeeper does. They're supposed to gatekeep the information, the real stuff that they don't want you to ever know, like the adrenochrome shit and all that other stuff. And he spoke of it, but not much, right? And then you got Kerry Cassidy coming out saying, "Oh no, he didn't kill himself," or there's people now saying, "Well, yeah, he did kill himself. He was depressed and shit." Well, why would you spend $1 million of your money in an aerospace company if you're depressed and you want to kill yourself? That doesn't make sense. You're not. That's something that's looking to the future, right? Obviously, if you had in fact done that. So I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff that just doesn't make sense about it. I'll just leave that there. Like I said, I came across him first when I was listening to the raw material, which are recordings that were from the 80s that were taken from different people who are claiming they were connected to a collective of some sort that was in another dimension that was giving information. And some of the information coming out was so insane, like people were saying, well, this can't be like fake shit, because these people know too much shit they're talking about, unless they're completely making it all up, right? Netanyahu pardon on ICE as Israeli president seeks a plea deal. So it looks like Netanyahu's in trouble. There's no pardon for him. I keep hearing all these other information. Oh, Israel's lost. They lost all this huge amounts of their air force. We just can't get any information. Excuse me. It's hard to get information, accurate information about anything right now, about Iran, about any of it. ICE rearrest Egyptian family that was released days ago. That was almost a week ago. Trump administration fires National Science Board members. UPI. Pentagon fires Stars and Stripes ombudsman. That I thought was interesting. What's going on inside our armed forces right now? We don't seem to know. And the other part of this is, for years, there's been all these people have just come out of the woodwork claiming, I have this information. Right? Wilcock's just one of them. Corey Good was another one that a lot of people didn't think was true. He's talking about the blue avians and that he had contact with them, and maybe he did. I don't know. I was never, that I know of, abducted by aliens, but I have woke up with scratches on my body that I don't know how they got there, which usually means they're taking your DNA. So, people have been taking my DNA for fucking years, and I don't know who's doing it. And, I don't have anybody to go to that I can say, hey, can you help me? Hey, Pentagon. You're probably the ones fucking doing it. So how, there's no recourse for people, unfortunately, like Wilcock, like James Wink, who also was murdered, in my view. Because he was bringing information about super soldier programs out that exist, right? You just saw another one where, there's another article I just found about it, where this guy just defected over to China and they're going to start making, designing more super soldiers, but they've already been doing it since like the 80s, I'm pretty sure. And I think I was caught up in that, so somehow, because, like, again, I got scarring on my body that I can't, either from Montauk or whatever other program they use chairs in when I was younger, because I was abducted from when I was a little child. I was taken, that's the only memory that I have, and that's the problem. Some people have no memories at all of what happened to them because their memories were erased. I mean, if I look at Wilcock, he looks like an empath to me. He's probably a hybrid. But is that even really him anymore, right? Did they switch him out a long-ass time ago? We don't know. I know I wasn't switched out. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know. White House Correspondents' Dinner shooter mocked the lack of security as he outlined his rules for attack. So he was watching this thing, and he even was saying it doesn't look like it's that well protected. FBI swarm White House correspondents' dinner gunman's home in California as investigators reveal Lone Wolf's money trail they're following. So apparently this guy didn't like Trump, and he had left stuff online about how he didn't like certain parts of the Republican Party and stuff. So it wasn't like this guy was just some nobody that had no opinion. He did have an opinion, I believe. Trump faces 3 tough choices on Iran war after dramatically canceling peace talks and rejecting last-minute offer as he claims oil pipelines will explode in just days. Well, if those dry up, right, if they're not pumping the oil, those wells can go bad, right? They got to keep the pressure on those wells that they're all the time, or else it can destroy it. Read the White House correspondent's dinner gunman's Cole Allen's full anti-Trump manifesto. So he has a whole manifesto now, apparently. He's not just a neutral party. Eric Swalwell's first-class flights led to mind-blowing $192,000 tab last year. In 1 year, this guy's private flying almost $200,000. Where's he getting all that money? Is he rich? I don't know. He's partying all over the world like he is. Illegal vendors swarm New York City's Chinatown months after ICE raids and cat and mouse game. Yeah, these guys just keep moving around different parts of Canal Street, blocking everything up. Can't walk down the sidewalk anymore between all these food carts on the sidewalk, and then you got illegal people selling shit on sidewalk all over the place too. That's how you turn into a second world and then a third world country, right? Anybody can just make their own stand now. Yeah, and go sell some stuff on the street corner. Why not? Can't do that in New York. They're making it easier for illegal aliens to do it with all these street carts they're making now, allowing. Because there's really not many jobs they can do, right? Inside WHCD shooter Cole Allen's deadly arsenal of weapons. So he had a long shotgun. He had a shotgun, pump action, a long shotgun, not a sawed-off. And he had a pistol with 2 clips. He had 2 knives. That's what I saw that he had on him, apparently. So he had 3 clips, which is, so he had 45, well, if it's 15 and 1 in the chamber, that's 16. He had 48 rounds. And plus the shotgun, right? Which I think holds maybe 7 or 8 shells. I don't know. I'm not an expert with shotguns. I know they usually hold maybe like 7 rounds or something. I don't know. Maybe 8, 6. Water and bleach in a Coke bottle reflects light, creating a 55-watt bulb. That's what I was talking about, right? People are figuring out, hey, if I just mix this bleach and water combo and it, right, I can, and I every once in a while spritz that up with some more bleach. Every once in a while I can make a free light, right? I don't need electricity. I can make almost like a 55-watt bulb. Bleach and water. Trump's White House correspondent dinner shooting would never have happened with White House ballroom. It cannot be built fast enough. Oh, so is this a reason for you to now have the ballroom even more? But the ballroom's too big, right? Why is it so large? And what are you going to build underneath it? Some kind of another like White House Situation Room type thing, a dome of some kind, underground base. What are you building underneath it, and why? Now he needs the ballroom right away because there was another. I don't consider that the third shoot attempt because the other guy never really got into place. He was caught way before anything even happened, right? So I don't even count that one. Pope Leo XIV's openly gay designer reveals what the pontiff's clothes secretly reveal about him. Is this guy Pope Leo as a designer? Guest at White House correspondent dinner goes viral for calmly eating his meal, while everyone else cowered under the tables as gunshots were fired. I wrote, "Dude paid for his seat and meal. He's going to eat it." Yeah, why not? the odds the bullet's going to hit you? They ain't coming looking for you. He knew the whole thing was probably fake. I paid $150 for this dinner, man. Think I'm going to leave? I don't think so. Everyone's on the ground, not this guy. He's still eating his appetizer. Yeah, when you're old like that, getting down on the ground it's not uncomfortable, man. I can't be down on the ground too long, huddle down. He's probably from New York. They don't get all razzed up about shit like that. Whatever. I'm eating my freaking appetizer, dude. You can lay down on the ground if you want. Kash Patel's stunning reaction as shooter opened fire on White House Correspondents' Dinner. Dems called out for continuous anti-Trump rhetoric after third assassination attempt. Yeah, I mean, you people got to stop with your rhetoric. And you notice that it's all repeated with the nighttime shows. It's the same fucking thing. These people all should be off the air. You've lost your way. Ever since Carson, nobody's done it right, as far as I'm concerned. You're doing it wrong. Carson would once in a while make a joke about political parties, but he'd always do it against both. He'd do it equal, right? And it was never nasty the way that, think about it. You're talking about people who for 5 years straight have been just nastily talking about a person. And okay, you don't like them, we get it, but why do we have to be subject to this for year after year after year? Because it's propaganda. They want you to hate the guy so much that hopefully somebody tries to kill him, right? Or they want you to at least believe that that's the case. But it's getting old. The whole thing is getting old. The story's old. I don't care about it anymore. I don't care about Trump. I know we can see right through who he really is. The whole thing is so completely obvious to most people at this point that what you're doing. You're manipulating the public. You're lying to us. You're not giving us the free energy. You're not giving us any of the stuff you promised. You're not shutting down the big companies that are poisoning us like Monsanto and others. You're helping big oil and big pharma. I've already gone over all this for years. I don't know what else I can do except to just keep reiterating those points until this person does something different. If the med beds came out tomorrow, I'd give them all the props in the world. Hey, great. Sorry, I guess I didn't understand your timing. But it doesn't appear that that's happening. And as people getting older and, sicker and dying every day, we're losing too much. 2 men pled not guilty over fires at homes linked to PM. Does this have something to do with Starmer? Maybe. This is from October the 17th, 2025 article from BBC.com. Would Starmer have a couple of guys over at his house and something went down? Some gay stuff? I don't know. We'll see. He likes to hang around in his underwear with Epstein, so, Who does stuff like that? I don't have any male friends I hang around in my underwear with like that. That's creepy and weird. If one of my friends was like, hey, want to hang out in your underwear? I'd say, no, not really. We can go to the beach if you want. Put on some bathing suits and go swimming, but I'm not hanging around in my apartment with you in my underwear. No, doesn't work, babe. Sorry. That's not what I'm into. Sorry, friend. Communists urge Comrade Mamdani to bolt the Democratic Party and join them in creating New York's Workers' Party. Is that the goal now? Is he going to just bolt? Can he even do that while he's in his term? I don't know. Can he just turn around and say, I'm not in the Democratic Party anymore. I'm actually a communist. Sorry. We're going to be enacting full communist manifesto and rules now. I don't think he can do that. You're going to have a lot of people outside the mayor's, you're going to have a lot of demonstrators outside City Hall, right? In the street, getting upset. If you do that. Obama completely ignores gunman's manifesto to claim, we don't know the motive behind the shooting, but the guy obviously apparently doesn't like Trump. Or did they just gin up a whole manifesto? What could go wrong? NASA wants to light a fire on the moon. But there's no oxygen on the moon. How are you going to light a fire there? Am I missing something? What are you going to create? Some kind of area where there's oxygen and then light a fire there? I thought space was a vacuum, dude. I guess not. What could go wrong? They want to light a fire on the moon. Here, my friend Norm Hamill said, "Hey Ash, that event at the White House dinner was 100% staged and lots of good stuff today." Thanks, Norm. I really appreciate it. He's one of my longest listeners, Norm. I appreciate you. I hope everything in your life is doing well and you're hanging in there. I'm continuing to look at other states to try to move out to. It's getting harder. I have certain issues where I can't live in some of the drier states. It's just that the climate doesn't agree with me. Very dry weather like that. So I'm gonna have to stay in the South. It looks like I'm gonna have to try to fit in the South when I don't fit in the South. But maybe I'll find a place that will accept me. We'll see. Sheriff deputy is arrested for raping and trafficking young boy across multiple Massachusetts towns. This is the sheriff deputy that's doing this, not the sheriff. His deputy's doing it. That's not good. That was out of Daily Mail, out of Massachusetts. So there's, that you're talking about law enforcement is now child trafficking. And if you think that's the only instance that's happening, I'll tell you, you're probably wrong. Right? If I'm the sheriff, I got the ultimate power. Who's going to fuck with me? Is anybody going to try to stop what I'm doing? This hustle, this side hustle? I don't think so. Unless the sheriff finds out, maybe. But if he doesn't, then who's going to fucking stop me? The sheriff is one of the highest law enforcement officials in most areas, right? If you're outside the cities, sheriff is all powerful. All powerful. The sheriff can evict you from your house. The sheriff can do a lot of stuff that regular police can't do. It's also a position that you have to run for, right? You have the local sheriffs. You have to run every 4 years or whatever it is for that job, right? The people have to elect you to be sheriff. Germany's Morens says U.S. is being humiliated by Iran's leadership and has no clear exit strategy. So is it true what Fulford's saying, that 5 of our ships have been sunk and thousands of sailors are hurt? I think somebody would have reported that. Wouldn't there be bodies floating in the ocean and people would see it? There's drones all over the fucking place. You don't think Iranian media would be itching for that visual if it actually existed, of the ships on fire, sinking and shit? Wouldn't they print it? I don't know. I'm just postulating. Morning Joe host goes on a verbal rampage against extraordinarily stupid idea to host a correspondence dinner in a hotel. Well, yeah, that's not. Hotel is it's a hard place to secure fully, right? Why? It has a lot of people in it and it has a lot of entrances. Makes it very difficult to secure. There's a lot of people moving around. It's hard to know who's who. It's one of probably the least secure places you could do this, right? Yeah, you can secure floors, you can secure a ballroom area easier, but you still have that element of a lot of people swirling around, and there's many different entrances that and exits that have to be secured, right? And that requires a lot of manpower usually. I thought it was inside the White House, but then I forgot, right? They're doing the ballroom. They're not holding it in the White House this year. It's harder to secure a hotel than the White House. The White House is a much more secure area. I can secure it easier. I can have more rings of security. So I wrote, I watched a psychic try to connect to David Wilcox. She had said, in fact, he did take his own life. I'm just telling you what other people are saying. He had been quite ill, which was the thought I had when I had seen his last show after not seeing his shows for some time. Others had also commented on how thin he was, and he was making it out that he was healthier, but now it seems that he was in fact not well physically, right? So, I just want to let you know that. I don't know. There's 2 other people have, Elizabeth April claims that she's a, what is that called? She remote viewed it. She's a remote viewer, and then she remote viewed the incident and said that, yeah, in fact, the whole event was, the whole Trump shooting was planned. She saw them planning it in a room. So, one of my listeners, Zinc and Ivy, said, Ash, the gunman was one floor above at street level. Shooter not being shot, but FBI is shot is really weird. Hope you find a happier place to live life. Thanks, Zinc. Yeah, they shot an FBI. Oh, so that was FBI there? That's weird. It was like a mix of like cops, FBI, but my point is like, there didn't seem to be a heavy Secret Service presence right there at that. And those are usually the guys that are manning like they have other people manning the metal detectors. It just seemed like there wasn't enough Secret Service around, and there was other cops around, and people that were just like not on that team, right? That are not gonna, they're just they're there for a job, but they're not expecting anything, right? You could see the way that they're acting. They're just like lounging about. I don't remember when I did security having big amounts of guys lounging around that way. You never saw that. In fact, if you're working a security and you're not in uniform, you try to blend in a little more. All you have is maybe like a little something on your lapel that everybody knows that you're either an undercover cop, FBI, or other. Right. So some Zinc and Ivy shared, here's the entire 3.5-hour event. I'm not going to look through it. I already can see that it's... You just got to fast forward to the point of when it goes down, right? You can see that the security's not right, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not even a professional at security. And I can see that there's gaps and problems. You can't have rooms that are that like that right near... you can't have an unsecured room, period. That room should have been locked. The door should have been locked. There should have been nobody had access to it, or only very limited. Militant sees major cities in Mali in coordinated attacks. So there's something going on in Mali. Is there another coup? I don't know. Mali and Nigeria not doing well right now at all. South Africa as well. Peruvian police raid ex-election chief's home in Probe in Peru. So we have a lot of these middle countries in Central and South America corrupt. They're corrupt because the United States corrupted many of them, like El Salvador and others. El Salvador, the Contra stuff we were doing, Nicaragua. We've been messing around in multiple different countries. Multiple young men allegedly drugged and raped at Epstein's Zorro Ranch. So that's the first I've heard of men being raped by Epstein and his ranch. Hopefully I'm still recording. I am. So guys, I'm going to take a quick break just to get this coffee, and then I'm going to power through this. Hopefully I'm going to try to make the shows a little quicker. I know they're running over 2 hours, and it's just so much information, and I'm sorry for that, but we have to cover all the angles of this thing as much as possible so we can use our intellect and our intuition to figure out what's really going on. If you are experiencing really bad panic attacks like that are just so debilitating, there is a way out of it. You need to find your breathing techniques. You need to work on your breathing techniques. And really what ultimately saved me was going to the gym. That's something I never stopped doing. Even at my worst, when my panic attacks were bad, I could go to the gym and get that out and work and just, get in there, man, and just be of one purpose and one mind to do something, right? And don't let your mind go to these other places. Just concentrate on that, working out that session, right? Hey, if you got to get down and do 50 push-ups, do it that way if you can't go out. You could work out at home. I did for 2.5 years during COVID. I kept myself sane by having a structure in my life of some sort, right? I'd wake up and I'd have some coffee and breakfast. I'd watch a little news, and then I'd start my workout, right? I'd start my push-ups. I'd start doing my planks. Something. Maybe it's running for you. Maybe it's taking an early morning run, right? That used to be something I liked doing before I broke my leg. So you can find something to do, right? You can fight back. And if you think that something is in your head and you're hearing stuff in your head, maybe it's not coming from you. That's what I realized. How could this be coming from me? And the voice was telling me literally the same thing. Kill yourself, kill yourself, kill yourself, kill yourself. Every fucking day. It'll just be easier this way. Just kill yourself and all the suffering will end. And it sounds good after someone's telling you to kill yourself every day. But then you start realizing, well, why am I thinking about this so much? Damn. I never used to be like this before, right? And then you start asking questions, right? But some people don't. They just, they don't know about voice to skull. If you didn't know about it, and you just all of a sudden woke up one day and you're hearing some voice telling you to kill yourself, you're going to start thinking you're insane, right? Unfortunately, or fortunately for myself, I have an inquisitive mind that looks up many different things. But I know that, Wilcock knew about this technology. So if it was being used on him, I don't know, Being sick a lot is not something that's fun. When I was sick that long, like I was sick, I had thought about killing myself many times as well, because you're just suffering at such a level that you don't have any hope left. And if doctors tell you there's nothing that they can do, yeah, that makes you start thinking that maybe it's time that I should check out. I can't live like this anymore. My quality of life is zero. Without your health, your quality of life is almost zero. That's why you need to protect it at all costs. Protect yourself, your body, your mind, your spirit. Ground yourself, shield yourself. Learn how to make a shield of the white light to protect yourself. Learn how to ground yourself. Walk barefoot in nature, right? Which is hard to do in New York. You can walk barefoot around here, you got a crack needle in your foot, right? All right, friends, I'll be right back in one moment. I appreciate you. I'm going to get this coffee, and then we're going to keep going. I appreciate you listening this long if you've been with me all these 6 years now. This is your friend in New York, Ash, MPMP News. I'll be right back in one moment. In the meantime, you could do some push-ups, sit-ups, and burpees, and I'll be right back. Thanks, friends. Okay, guys, I'm back. Thanks for that break. So we know now that multiple men were allegedly drugged and raped at Zorro Ranch, which we know there's underground areas there that after a woman had said that she had woke up, remember, and she was in some kind of underground base there, or some kind of underground area, and something was being done to her, remember? I had been thinking back over how many shows I've done over the past 6 years. This is the 963rd show. I'm trying to get to 1,000. I keep sort of feeling like by that point, this will pretty much be done, and we'll know more. You're not going to know anything till whatever is after Trump comes, is my guess, right? There's not going to be some kind of reconciliation thing under Trump. If there was, it would have happened by now. Like, in other words, they should have opened up all these files from the military and said, holy crap, sorry to let you guys know this, but the military's been, using certain people from civilian life, kidnapping them and using them in military programs for decades. There has to be some kind of, right, reconciliation about that. Just the same way there has to be some truth and reconciliation about the child trafficking stuff that's going on, the women that are being abused allegedly by Washington senators and Congress people, right? The slush fund that's set up to defend these men, mostly men and some women, against sexual assault allegations. Right? These are rich, powerful men that are being protected, right? Just like Fauci, but it's just for different reasons. Mayor Mamdani begs lawmakers to allow him to miss New York City budget deadline. This guy's doing a lot of bad stuff. He's missing the budget deadline. He's also messing around with the pensions now. This is not going to end well. He's going to do what some of these other cities did, like Detroit and others, that led to their downfall. You mess around with the pensions, and you mess around with people's money. And here's the Elizabeth April show if you want to watch it. Trump shooting, remote viewing, what really happened. It's up to you what you think about it. I'm not saying she's right. I'm not saying she's wrong. I've been watching her for many years. She's somebody that I find extremely interesting in the sense that she's claiming that she's a Galactic Federation sort of ambassador. I've never met anybody from the Galactic Federation. I don't know if the Galactic Federation even exists. I've heard rumors that it does and that it doesn't. I'm assuming there's some, if you look at like the Star Wars movies, right, especially where they have that whole, in the more newer ones, right, there's like a whole council that you go, it's like a United Nations almost, right, where all those different worlds were. So if that's true, I don't know, then we're obviously not part of it yet. We're like that stupid little planet that's getting messed around, that little marble in the corner that everybody's like, oh, poor, those poor people. Yeah. They're getting messed with just like all the others are. You think you're the only one that maybe has been enslaved in this way, the only world? I doubt it. These people feed off other creatures loose. You don't think they're doing this to 50 other planets the same way they're doing it to you? If they can use that loose and make it into some kind of potion that makes them live 25,000 years, that would be worth a lot of money, don't you think? That's the fountain of youth in a nice little bottle. Are we just a loose farm? London's housing crash is a cautionary tale for New York City as Mamdani's second home tax. It's almost like the Matrix. They're just farming you for your energy and your loosh. It's just two different. They're getting two things out of you. You're a human battery, and you're a human battery that's creating loosh for them lifetime. If I mess around with you all your life, right? And then I keep you in a state of flux all the time in the news, right? Where it's one article after this article after that. One thing after the next. You can never feel at peace. You can never feel like you're safe at peace, right? There's always some other thing that you got to worry about. London's housing crash is a cautionary tale for New York City as Mamdani's second home tax. Yep, he's doing the same stuff that they're doing over there. He's trying to destroy New York. New York has always been, at least for many years, a very good place to buy real estate. Why? Because it doesn't fluctuate too much and usually goes up. If you bought a condo here or a co-op, let's say 1975 two-bedroom, and you held it till, say, 1990, the odds are you're going to sell it at a profit, and a big one. Usually the longer you hold it, the bigger the profit. Like, here's an example. My grandparents, they're both passed now, but when they bought a two-bedroom with den in Brooklyn back in the day, a new development at the time, way out in Brooklyn, $3,500 bucks. I think it cost them $3,500. 2-bed, 2.5 bedroom, 1 bath. When they died, when my grandmother passed, and that was I think like 2014 or 13, we sold it for 100 and I think like 30 or 40,000 bucks. That's not a bad. Right, they bought it for $3,500, sold for $140,000. That's a pretty good markup. You made your money back and plenty more, right? Of course, they held that asset for 50 or 60 years, right? But you didn't have to. You could have sold it even cheaper. You could have sold it 10 years before that and maybe got, I don't know, maybe 100 grand. Prices don't go up as fast in Brooklyn as they go up in Manhattan. Top Jalisco cartel leader El Jardinero has been arrested in Mexico. So they're getting these cartel guys. They're starting. That's one thing I gotta say that somebody's doing. They're policing up a lot of the organized crime. La M, Mexican mafia guys got arrested. But what about New York? I told you, whenever they're gonna try to go into the Bronx and other boroughs where there's some gangs, because there are gangs in the Bronx, no question. Do they control half of all the Bronx? I don't think so. They control certain areas of it, though. Those gangs need to be neutralized. 22 Buddhist monks arrested at Sri Lanka airport for allegedly hiding 242 pounds of marijuana in their luggage. Wow. I didn't know Buddhist monks smoked weed. Thought you didn't do stuff like that. I thought, you kept the body pristine, right? I don't understand why you smuggling that much weed. That's a lot of weed. Where were they headed? They were at Sri Lanka going someplace, or they were coming back from somewhere with the weed. That was probably going to last them a long time. J.D. Vance rushed off stage before Trump. Did you notice that? That's the one thing I noticed. Trump was made to crawl off the stage. But they grabbed Vance first, and he didn't have to crawl. He stood upright, and they didn't even form a ring around him. Right? They didn't do any of the things you're supposed to do if there's a shooter, as far as I could tell. You're supposed to form a ring of protection around the president and around Vance and get them off the stage quick. They got Vance off first. He's not the asset, the main asset. Trump is, I thought, unless Trump's not the real president. Because that one was made to crawl off the stage almost. And then you see Melania, no one's looking out for her. She's at the side like, what do I do? Where do I go? The whole thing looked ridiculous. If there had been multiple shooters and a real shooter in that room, it would have been a problem, right? Because you had not secured the president properly yet. You didn't have a ring of protection around him, in fact. Of course, some guy stood there, and then they had two guys come in with long rifles, so he had something. And you notice that those guys who came in with the long rifles right after, those guys weren't Secret Service. They look like military or something, right? They had like M16 type rifles almost, and they had helmets on and stuff. Southeast wildfires explode. Now Florida and Georgia's on fire. These are two places where it rains usually a lot, especially Florida. Shit. Last time I went to Florida, it was raining like every day. For like 20 minutes every day, it rained about a half hour and stop. But like every day it would rain a little bit. It's so humid, you know. Now all of a sudden there's no rain. Massive Utah data center to generate and consume more energy than the entire state. So this one data center is going to consume more energy than the rest of Utah. It needs so much energy. Quote, no one has pulled this off this fast ever. The state gets it. The leadership gets it. And the ability to execute like this is extraordinary. They get what? What do they get? That you need a data center that uses more power than the rest of the state uses? Why? Why didn't you need that before? Why do I need this now? What is it doing for the state? Why is it helping the state? How is it helping the state? It's not. It's using up the state's resources. 5 days ago, New York City was massively chemtrails. That was on the 28th. I haven't seen any for about, since yesterday. Today's perfect. Beautiful. No, none. But they rarely chemtrail on Sundays. I don't know why. They usually chemtrail during the week and maybe Saturday. But the other day we had that was a big dump too. It was disgusting. And it was big. One streak went all the way across the sky. Just huge. And it was so obvious what they were doing. One of them was bent in a like almost like in a curve, so you could see there wasn't a cloud. Clouds don't have curves usually like that. A straight line and curve. See if you can spot why some Democrats think President Trump staged the latest assassination attempt. I wrote, I'm pretty much close to 100% sure that was staged. I didn't even have to remote view it. I just used my intuition to look at a situation and it tells me what's happening. I look at the people's faces. I watch what they're doing. It doesn't look right. And then you ask the question, well, why do they keep doing it? Is it to like get his base riled up? But his base is slowly eroding away because people are starting to realize he's a Trojan horse, like I said, like 2.5 years ago. 2.5, 3 years ago, I remember saying, this guy could be a Trojan horse because if you're old enough to realize it, right? I mean, if you've been around since before Reagan, like me, when you see these people come in, you get what they're doing now. Everything falls to pot, right, under the Democrat, then the Republican comes in like a Reagan. I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to save the day. They even had Reagan doing it, a former actor, the last time, right? I'm going to be the hero. And what did he do, right? Nothing. He helped the rich get richer, that's for sure. You can get T-bills back then for like 8% on a T-bill. That's guaranteed money. If you're a billionaire and I come up to you and say, hey, you want to buy these bonds for 6 months or a year and they'll guaranteed they'll pay 8%. Yeah, I want that all day long. I'll put billions of dollars into that, in fact, and make 8% on that money because that's guaranteed, right? There's no way I can lose. That's what billionaires like to hear. No loss. Zero loss potential, right? Just like the bonds that they create against your strawman name, the same thing. Right? Those 30-year bonds, they pay out guaranteed. Can't lose. Even if you die, you can't lose. Anthony Fauci, advisor indicted by DOJ on charges of concealing COVID records. What about Fauci? What about Fauci? Remember when he gave that kid the antidote? He gave, not the antidote, he gave this kid the whole thing. Remember some kid was messaging him and he was giving him like all kinds of information. How to make it into a bioweapon and shit. Right? Remember? We were watching this whole thing since Peter Daszak and the whole thing went down. We were there from the beginning of watching it and saying, don't touch this thing, it's bad. Keep it away from your family. It's synthetic biology. It's quantum dot. It's Gates. It's these guys. They're trying to get inside your body, right? We knew that. So hopefully, if you followed this channel, I hope I stopped at least somebody from getting it. That's all I could have done. I mean, what am I going to do? Stand outside on a soapbox? No one's going to listen to me here in New York. They're all propagandized too bad, right? All I could do here was walk around outside with no mask on all the time, and that's what I kept doing. I remember doing that so much. I just go out to say, hey, I'm going to walk around today just to have no mask on, just to show these people you can do it. And eventually it started to have an effect, because I remember people in my neighborhood saying, hey, you know what? They'd come up to me later and say, hey, I remember back when that was happening and you weren't wearing the mask. You were right. I said, I know I was. I said, I appreciate that. Thank you. Most people never tell me I'm right. I said, I was trying to show you it's okay, man. Don't breathe in your own waste product. You're going to kill yourself. Don't work out with a mask on. It's bad for you. Trust me, don't do that. You need oxygen. You need clean air. Mamdani's plan to delay pension payments echoes the schemes that brought New York City near bankruptcy. This has already been done in the 70s. It's not, you can't do it. It doesn't work. And it destroys your city. Quality Learning Leering Center among nearly 24 Minnesota child care centers raided by the FBI. So they did raid it. I mean, if you can't even spell learning properly, how are you a learning center? Right? You had one job. Make the sign, right? Make one sign correct and you had one job. Should have named it the Leering Center. Leering. You ever leer at somebody? No, you don't want to learn how to leer. That's not good. That's not like a Lear jet. It's a different kind of leer. What does leer really mean? It's like not good, right? Let's look up leer. Leer. Definition. Here we go. To cast a what? To cast a sidelong glance. Oh, the side eye. Yeah, the side eye. Shit. Don't give me no side eye, right? You ever hear people say that? Don't give me no side eye. You better not go in the military. Don't give your sergeant a side eye, right? That's a problem. You're up in the military, you give that drill sergeant that side eye when he's right up in your face. That's a bad idea. He'll know it, or he or she will know it. Do not do it. The United Arab Emirates to leave OPEC on May 1st in shocking blow, right? That was another big thing, right? UAE's leaving OPEC. That's degrading the power of OPEC. Rep Ilhan Omar was mocked over brutal World War XI gaffe in resurfaced video. Well, she's not the brightest person. I mean, let's just be real. What was some average Somali intelligence level? I don't know. I looked it up. It's not Einstein level, right? Unfortunately. Too much inbreeding. Measles outbreak in South Carolina officially ends. Oh, wait a minute. I thought people were saying it would never end, and so only 1,000 people got it and it petered out. Oh, that's odd. Wow. Okay. So those people didn't actually need the measles vaccine at all, right? It ran its course. It didn't turn into a massive... Now that's probably because most people already have the measles vaccine, but whatever, right? When it doesn't become a massive pandemic like they're saying it's going to be, even though people don't get the vaccine anymore, which means that you don't necessarily need all these vaccines. Like when you were a kid, right, and you ever get chicken pox? Most kids get it, right, but some people don't get it till they're an adult, and it's way worse, right? But when we were kids, like if somebody got the chicken pox, they used to like sometimes have their kid go over to that kid's house so they could get it. Isn't that crazy? So they just get it, like it would go through the neighborhood and then it would be done. You don't want to get. I had a chicken pox. It was like a really, really minor version. My sister had it like really bad though. Like she had them in her throat and stuff. It was like real bad. I got lucky. George Clooney's $1 million donation to the SPLC is now tied to funding the Haiti men to fight. Yeah, he's not looking too good, right? Because all these stars are saying, "Hey, we love the SPLC." They're rooting out racism and stuff, but they're not. I had some people say that they're calling me a racist for some of my views, just because I don't want certain illegal aliens to live in my city or whatever. I don't know why you would have that view, but like people in my family mostly, just they that's what they think. They think it's okay. They think everybody should just be allowed to come here and that we should help everybody. Yeah. They don't mind that their taxes go for that. I do. It doesn't have anything to do with race. I don't care if the people were white who are illegal aliens or what their color is. I don't want illegal aliens here, period. I don't care what your race is. It doesn't matter. It just happens to be that most of them are brown and black. That's just the reality of what they're doing. The A-list actor made the huge donation following the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, which was fake, right? Remember all those white guys with torches they paid to make it look like KKK? That's not KKK, dude. Trust me, it's not. I know KKK. I've seen it before. There's one of the biggest chapters of KKK used to be in New Jersey. At least the East Coast. So this is a democratic mechanism. You have to understand that. People don't seem to remember it. I was talking with a friend of mine. She's from Barbados. So she's African American. And I'm like, you do know that the first, African American politicians were all in the Republican Party, right? You do know that, right? She's like, yeah, but that was just, So how come it took like almost 100 years from that? How come it took 60 years from that point until the 60s until there was a black Democratic senator or congressman? Why do you think that was? You can't understand that, right? That's what you do, and you start to put the seed in people's head, and they start thinking, "Wait, you're right. Shit, what am I talking about?" It's the biggest scam that the Democrats ever pulled, that to convince African Americans somehow that the Democratic Party was the party had African Americans' interest at heart. When if you go back historically, that wasn't the case. They didn't want African Americans to vote the Democratic Party at all in the beginning. If you go back and check it out, they didn't want you to vote, period. Cartel kingpin Don Dario is busted living a secret life in California after a $10 million bounty. That's funny. All of a sudden he showed up. Hey, there's a $10 million bounty. Oh, yeah? He's right over there, bro. I wasn't going to give it to you for free. He'll kill me. I got to make sure you catch him first. Then I'll give him to you. Yeah, I don't want payment in Bitcoin either. I want cash. Pay me $10 million in gold, in fact. Donald Trump's gleeful reaction after the Daily Mail uncovered that he's a cousin of King Charles. Wait a minute. They're all now we know they're all really connected, even to Trump. Remember, we thought Trump's not connected to King George, that all the others are, but he's connected to Charles. Right, because he's Scottish, right? Trump's family goes back to Scotland. I watched the interesting doc one guy did, and one of those Gold Show guys did about Trump's grandfather, and he was following the miners. That's how he made his money. He exploited all the miners that were coming to the Klondike, right, to make after the big gold finds. Another interesting thing was there was a guy, I forgot his name, one of the big gold rushes started because a guy had married an indigenous woman. A white man had married an indigenous woman from one of the tribes in that area, and they knew where the gold was because they knew about gold, right? Because they'd seen gold, they knew about it, they knew where it was, and they find this river, which is the river, I forgot, not the Klondike, a different one, that's just filled with gold, right? Chunks of gold, nuggets, not just like little bits of gold, like big chunks, right? And they realize that they got to get that gold out before the word's going to get out, right? It's that winter. They only have that winter to do it. And they start building fires along the side of the river to melt the snow down, and literally they're, doing some insane, working in 20 below zero temperatures to try to get this payout after they dig down and thaw out all this ground to get the gold out before all the people start coming in the spring. And they do. They get a lot of gold out. That's a crazy story. Of course, he dumps the indigenous wife later after they get all the big money in. But that's okay, because the tribe had all kinds of money too. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals rules against anti-ICE protesters, says federal officers can use crowd control munitions at Portland ICE facility. Quote, the First Amendment does not protect vandalism, criminal trespass, or obstruction of law enforcement, quote unquote, wrote Judge Kenneth Lee in the court's decision. That's the right decision. That should never have even had to go that far. It's almost insane that it had to go to that point, right? You can't show up at a facility and start firebombing it from outside and throwing like projectiles at the people. That's illegal. It's attempted murder, it should be. You can't allow a group of people to show up day in and day out in a neighborhood outside of a facility and just protest and scream and make noise when people live in that neighborhood and who for weeks and months been pleading with the local government to do something about it, and they don't do anything about it. It's like the same thing in my building. I got the guy up here looking at the pipe that's all obviously 50-year-old pipe or 40 years old that needs to be replaced, that's going into the wall that also needs to be replaced because water leaked inside there. But they don't want to do it, right? Because it's a lot of work. And they want to gut renovate my apartment when I leave and make it all nice and charge 3 times what the rent that it's charging now, right? But they can't because I'm still here. And they don't like that. So, hey, maybe we'll take 3 or 4 days to fix your problem. And plus, we don't even have usually when it's plumbing, you got to have a certified plumber doing the work, not in this building. They're having people do work on plumbing that have no business doing work on plumbing. They don't even know what they're doing, which is illegal, I believe. You don't get protection from the First Amendment to vandalize, to trespass against a facility. You can't do that. Or obstruct that facility's the operations of that facility. You can't block the entrance of that facility. Right? I can't show up at a precinct and have a protest at the front door and block the door. They'll just arrest me right away. It won't even be a question. Right? It'll be instant. Because you can't block a facility like that. Brooke Rollins reveals 14,000 SNAP recipients are driving luxury vehicles in one state. Wait a minute, you're on SNAP and you're driving a Porsche? What's going on? You're driving a Porsche and now you're going in to get your SNAP food? People are getting pissed. They can't get Oreos anymore. They can't get, right? You're going to have to pay for that yourself. Excuse me. Among the brands driven were Tesla, Alfa Romeo, Porsche, Ferrari. Guy's got a Lambo. Doing better than me. I don't even have a car. I don't even have a car, dude. I'd love to have a car. And I wouldn't care what it was as long as it wasn't a Tesla. I am not driving a Tesla car. No way, man. Couldn't pay me to drive it. I would drive a Lambo. I don't think I could drive a stick. It's too hard. I can't drive a car like that. That's too fast for me. What was gold doing last week? 46.29. It was down 9. It was a very bad week, up and down week for silver. Ended up $1.63 to it's still 76.10. I'm pretty happy with that. It should be still at 120 going to 150 and 200. They knocked it all the way back down. What's going on? Everybody wants silver. And so why is the price not going up like crazy? Well, it should be. That's how you know it's being manipulated. If you got India and other countries going to certain silver miners and saying, hey, we'll take all your silver for the whole year. In fact, we want all your silver for 5 years straight. Can you do that? Sure, why not? If you pay this exorbitant amount of money, we'll do it. Okay, sure. So they're getting these countries to commit to prices that are way higher, right, than they normally would get. And they're like, yeah, sure, we'll sell you all our silver at this inflated price. Why not? You're willing to pay it. It's just like real estate. I could charge any fee I want as long as you pay it. It doesn't matter if you know that it's 6% is the height, right? If I tell you, hey, would you pay a 12% fee on this? And you say, okay, well, sure. Then I can do it. That doesn't make sense, does it? No. Because the fee should be what the fee is. No higher. North Carolina Elections Board finds 34,000 deceased people on the voter rolls. That's not good. That means you could have affected the North Carolina vote, right, with that many people. If it's a close race, you only need maybe 1,000 votes. Boom. No problem. But if I'm using the GEM system, I don't even have to do that. I could just program it in ahead of time that Trump only gets 48.5%. And then it'll fractionalize the votes and just do it for you. Right? You don't even have to do it that way with the dead people's votes. Right? You never remove the GEM system, one. And two, which is fractional magic, which turns the votes into fractions, which makes your vote, which should be one person, one vote, into one person, maybe 6 votes. Maybe a sixth of a vote. Maybe your vote doesn't count as one, it counts as 1/6 of one vote. Which means 6 more people have to vote for Trump for it to be 1 vote for Trump. Get it? Meanwhile, Biden's going 1 vote Biden, 1 vote Biden, 1 vote, right? And then on top of that, when I'm beaming the results to CNN and the news, I'm changing the vote totals somehow in that area, and you're watching it on your screen as Trump's vote goes down, right? Which I couldn't believe that in most countries, if anyone's watching, right, and you see the vote totals go down, they should have called the entire election, should have been called, right? There's something wrong. Trump's vote's going down. Something is affecting the vote. Terminate. Declare a national emergency. Declare that we are going to paper votes in the next week or whatever it is, right? Nothing like that happened. Chinese national indicted in COVID-era hacking scheme. Arrested in Italy, extradited to Texas. He faces a 9-count indictment for his role in a People's Republic of China hafnium computer intrusion campaign, targeting U.S. companies which also compromised thousands of computers. Well, we still never found out who did the SolarWinds hack. Right? We've been hacked a bunch of times. The FBI got hacked. SPLC's double game, funding extremists while spending millions to swing southern elections. While the SPLC was funneling money to extremist group insiders, it was spending lavishly to try to swing elections in the Deep South. Just the news. So they were doing a lot, right? They were spending a lot of money. And we had talked about this, I think, like 3 years ago, that there was this whole suit going on. Opinion piece. New York Post. Jimmy Kimmel stopped being funny years ago with his tiring crusade against Trump. Now he's lost his decency too. Yeah, like I said, this got old a long time ago. It used to be that these guys were just, you were supposed to just unwind in the evening where you could watch some comedy and not have to worry about the world. That's why people like Johnny Carson. He was funny. You get to see some stars, some famous people, some music, and that's it. And you go to sleep. You didn't have to talk about and worry about politics or hear much about it. Maybe some politicians would go on once in a while, but, it wasn't like just Trump, anti-Trump day in and day out, night after night after night. The same thing with like this guy, what's his name, John Oliver. He's another one that's just a voracious anti-Trumper, right? He's that British guy. He's a voracious anti-Trump propagandist. Like they all are, but I never thought Jimmy Kimmel was funny, ever. I never thought his show was funny. I never liked his humor. Kevin O'Leary calls Mamdani's New York City tax plan sheer blind stupidity as wealth flees the city. Yeah, they're going to flee, right? Because the rich also like to have what's known as that pied-à-terre, right? They like to have maybe just that little one bed, little studio somewhere, right? Maybe a lot of the stars have that, right? Yeah, they got a pad in London, they got a pad in maybe in LA, and then they got a New York pad, like a little loft or something in New York, right? Like to be bi-coastal. A lot of famous people live in New York City. California's high-speed rail, now the worst project in history as insiders reveal the unbelievable new cost. Yeah, this has been a boondoggle where they just stole the money and you never got anything. I don't even think they built the original track yet for it even. We should have had, magnetic levitation, high-speed rail from New York to LA by now. It's a shame that we don't. Countries like China, Japan, and other Asian nations are way ahead of us in terms of magnetic levitation trains, which is maglev. They call maglev, right? Where it's not like a train is not running on metal wheels anymore. It's actually floating on a magnetic current, right? Where I have a fixed rail system where there's two magnets magnetized opposite to each other, right? Where the train is literally floating, which is why it's capable of 300 kilometers an hour plus speeds. Way faster than a regular locomotive can go. These things are going probably about 3 times the speed of an Amtrak, right? At its top speed of maybe 80. I think an Amtrak can go 80. That's about it. Fury is New York City on course to join Detroit, Chicago, and Puerto Rico with woke Mayor Mamdani's latest plan. It's a bad idea. Don't mess with people's pensions. Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson rushed from news conference after reports of shots fired. So then the Seattle mayor was talking and shots got fired at the building where she was. ICE arrests illegal alien trucker Rajinder Kumar in Oregon for crash that killed newlywed couple married just 16 days. Oregon officials declined to cooperate with ICE and released Kumar on April 2nd. He was caught by immigration authorities. I mean, what is going on? These people, you're releasing known criminals and back into these people should be removed from office immediately as being a traitor. This guy just killed somebody. And you're just letting them back out? What if that was your kids? I would be enraged. What are you doing? That's happened in New York too, where ICE has expressly said, do not release this person. We're going to deport them, and they've let them out. So you see that the blue states are just totally not cooperating with ICE at all. In fact, they're operating the opposite of ICE. And these people in these blue states just think it's okay, I guess. They're okay with it. Supreme Court rules using race and redistricting is unconstitutional. The Supreme Court held that the Voting Rights Act did not require Louisiana to create an additional majority-minority district. Yeah, all this redistricting is completely illegal. It should not be allowed at all. And both parties are guilty of using it for multiple decades now, and it has to stop. Supreme Court tosses Louisiana House map and major Voting Rights Act win for GOP ahead of midterms. Then the Democrats have been trying to redistrict certain areas so that the Republicans can't win. Right? They did it in New York to the point where it's like the Republicans almost have no votes left. It's criminal, really. Federal Reserve is expected to hold interest steady in Powell's final policy meeting as chair. Well, they can't do anything more. If they raise, the market will tank. The global energy shock stemming from the U.S.-Iran conflict in the Middle East is creating economic uncertainty as the Federal Open Market Committee meets to discuss policy. There is no policy. You're $38 trillion in debt. You can't pay the interest on your debt. Certain countries like Japan and others I believe Japan sold all their U.S. bonds. Did they sell all, or what did they sell? Japan total holdings of U.S. Treasury bonds. Japan's big move on U.S. Treasuries. No evidence behind video claim Japan offloading billions in U.S. That was March 26, 2025. That was a year ago. I can't find anything about it. Japan ready to stabilize FX, possibly by selling U.S. bonds. That was March 25th, 2026. Government is prepared to take all necessary. We're trying to find out if they actually did. April 8th, 2025. Japan dumped the US dollar. So we'll have to keep an eye on Japan. We're not sure what they're doing yet. I heard rumors that they're dumping US debt. And a lot of other countries are as well. They won't buy US bonds anymore, especially Treasury bonds, because they're worthless, really. What does WHCD suspect mean? White House, I'm not, CD. Suspect Cole Allen took smirking selfie while armed. Multiple remote viewers both said this event was completely staged. So. Well, Michael Jaco was the other one who I don't completely trust. I just saw Elizabeth April, though, go on Nino Rodriguez's show, which was probably a mistake for her, but I don't know. I don't trust him, that's for sure. Sicko walks through quiet Rhode Island town in KKK robes. That's a whole different level of racism. So I wrote that's, a prime example of agitation propaganda, or what they call agitprop, right? The story of the swastika in the park in a Jewish neighborhood. You saw people doing stuff like with hangings and stuff in the South, right? Somebody was hung. I think a person actually literally was lynched or hung in the woods somewhere, right? A black male doing something, attacking Asian women, something in New York, the same thing. That's agitprop. It's trying to get friction between two races or anger over some issue. I wrote, Benjamin Fulford is alleging some of these scientists are being killed to cover up the Nazi scientists who came over in Operation Paperclip and their experiments after World War II ended, to cover up post-World War II concentration camps. He's claiming there's concentration camps in the United States that exist and that people are being experimented on right now. Whether those are underground or other, we don't know. He's claiming that that's part of the reason these people are being killed, but that doesn't make sense with what these people were actually working on. Some of them were working on fusion, nuclear fusion, anti-gravitic stuff. What does that have to do with concentration camps and Operation Paperclip? I don't know. Some of the Nazi scientists had knowledge of anti-gravitics. They created the Nazi bell, right? If you remember, which was a horrible mistake because they became unstable. They were using liquid mercury in it, and then the thing just started time traveling on its own or opening up portals and stuff. I had heard all kinds of crazy stuff about the Nazi bell. Trump says Iran better get smart soon. Oil hits 115. So if people in the know knew about that this was coming with Iran, you could have made a lot of money, right? Buy some oil futures. Put some puts on oil on going up, right? James Comey surrenders to feds after grand jury indictment. Comey's been charged with threatening the life of President Trump. How come he wasn't in jail from before? $65 billion lithium mother lode has been found, hidden beneath Appalachian mountains. Great, so you want to go into the Appalachians where you took all that coal out of and now you want to rip it apart for lithium now? Great. We don't need lithium, dude. Tupac stepbrother files bombshell lawsuit suggesting huge conspiracy around rapper's death is true. Yeah, I'm assuming it's true. I'm assuming Tupac was trying to get free of these people, right? He didn't want to be involved with them anymore. He had to do certain rituals to get where he was. He wasn't free of that. That's how they sexualized him. You saw they put him in the bathtub with the chains around his crotch and shit. They sexualized him. He didn't want to do that. He's a hardcore rapper. He's a street rapper. You think he wants to be in a bathtub and shit? Looking like a bitch, right? With gold around his crotch and stuff? No. He was trying to get free of the control of those people. Trump orders aides to prepare for extended blockade on Iran as Tehran's economy collapses. So it's not looking good. We're not hearing good things coming out of Iran, and the longer that this regime stays in power, the worse it's going to be for the people, unfortunately. Trump admin live updates. President considers pulling U.S. troops out of Germany over leaders' criticism of Iran war. I said, just do it then. Don't talk about it. Where's my med bed? Where's my med bed? I want it now. Where's my money that you owe us? Where's our money? Where's my Doge check? You owe me $7,000, dude. You owe everybody $7,000 in a med bed now, not later. Think I want to wait years so the rest of my family members can fucking die? Opinion piece, New York Post. Mamdani acts like a petulant teen in front of the king. Yeah, you know what he wanted the king to do? To give back some diamond to, like, India. Who cares about that? You're the mayor of New York. What does that have to do with New York or the United States? Nothing. You're here to greet the king and the queen. That's all you're here to do. Just be a nice little errand boy and do your job. Right? Just be the little mayor, be happy, be thankful they're here, whatever. Smile with them and then send them on their fucking way. No, he's talking about, hey, can you return that diamond? Okay, whatever. Sure. Biden administration zealously probed traditional Christians, even keeping tabs on priests, DOJ report. Yeah, they were using the SPLC to do that too. And then people were burning churches down. I just saw this interesting thing. This guy was watching the church, and apparently if he has some kind of, I don't know what he was looking at the church through, some kind of measuring energy that was coming off of the church, and you could see that there's energy coming straight up out of the church because they build them along the ley lines, a lot of those churches. Churches used to, I think that's true, that churches used to be a healing place. The bells used to be made out of a different metal, right? They're talking about the organ, the church, and is a powerful instrument. I told you I have a friend that plays the organ in some of their churches here, and man, it's unbelievable. You go in there, listen to some Bach stuff, or he goes off on some stuff, man, wow. Puts you into a hypnotic state, listening to some of that organ stuff. It can put you literally into a hypnotic state. It can raise your vibration. That's why they don't want churches around. It's a place of healing, too, not just of prayer. There's no other place does that. The Muslim don't have that, their religion. The Jews don't have that in their religion. That's something interesting, I think, about the bells, right, is interesting. The church bells are ringing, right? Karen Bass caught in shocking recording just days before the Palisades fire. Minnesota couple and daughter were hit with federal charges for allegedly assaulting Turning Point USA reporter. Well, yeah, you're on video doing it. Your daughter's on video shoving her to the ground. The father's you're menacing, you're invading her personal space. The other girl's putting something in her ear that's making a loud noise. You're shoving her, you're pushing her, you're invading her personal space. These people should all have gotten major charges for attacking someone like that. Texas AG sues birth tourism center advertised to Chinese nationals. The lawsuit claims that the DEAI Postpartum Care Center has facilitated the birth of more than 1,000 American-born babies through an illegal, dangerous, and dishonest birth tourism operation. Now take that back to New York, where there's places that have been doing this probably since the 70s here, or the 80s. Talking about 50 years of it almost. Excuse me. Jerome Powell says he will remain on the Fed board after chairmanship ends. Calls Trump criticism unprecedented. Quote, my decisions on these matters will continue to be guided entirely by what I believe is in the best interest of the institution and the people we serve after my term as chair ends on May 15th, and will continue to serve as a governor for a period of time to be determined. So he's not going to even be gone. Why wasn't this person removed a long time ago? Why wasn't the Fed ever completely closed? Why hasn't the market imploded on itself yet? What's keeping it afloat? Why are all these crypto coins still seemingly worth something? You saw Trump's crypto coin is not worth that much anymore. Last time I looked at that, it was at $3 or $4. That's it. Maybe it's even less now. That thing was at $8, $10, $11 before. It's lost more than half its value. Jack Posobiec announces he's willing to turn state's evidence against Comey. I've discussed this with my legal team, and as of this time I am now fully prepared to turn myself in state's evidence to cooperate with the Department of Justice and testify against James Comey. What does Posobiec know? I don't trust him. Jim Jordan asked the SPLC interim head Brian Fair to testify before Congress over funding the KKK. white supremacist groups, and other white supremacist groups. Quote, recently released information reveals that the SPLC has funneled money to some extremists, raising questions whether the SPLC has been artificially elevating the domestic extremist threat. That's exactly what they've been doing. As soon as I saw those kids walking in Charlottesville, you could see the whole thing was manipulated. And then they kept using it over and over. Oh, Trump said those were the good people, right? Those are honest, decent people, right? Remember, they manipulated that whole... The KKK doesn't work like that. They don't come out. They don't show their face. That's why they wear the hood. That's why they have the hood, so that you don't know who they are. They never show themselves. Almost never. Very rarely. Some of the white power groups do, like in biker gangs and others who are like that, but that's not KKK, that's different groups. Skinhead groups, stuff like that, smaller entities. You are artificially elevating the domestic extremist threat. Period. End of sentence. That's fact. And you've been doing it a long ass time, probably since the 70s or earlier. Camaro driving child snatcher's astonishing excuse for abducting the boy as he pleads not to be deported to India. So I wrote, there's too many Indian people here on H-1B visas. Check North Texas. Right? Somebody started looking into like some of the areas in North Texas. They're like, what the heck are all these H-1B visa Indian dudes doing here? They're not that well educated. Can't find some people like this here to give a job to? Why are you flooding Texas with Indian people and trying to build a 400-acre Muslim city in Texas, which now has to go ahead, apparently to go ahead by a judge's order, after another court ruled it was unconstitutional. Because if you let the 400-person Muslim city go ahead, then you know that one other group is going to come up soon and say, hey, we're this group. We want to have our own city. We want to have a white city. And we want to call it White Town. What do you think about that? Or whatever we want to call it. Whiteburg. Where only white people can live. Is that okay with you? Because this guy over here is only letting Muslims live there. But there can be different groups of Muslims, right? Muslims can be of all different colors. That's different a little bit, right? But still, you're saying only one group, religious group, can live here. There's no other place in the United States that I know of. Well, that's not true, because some of these Hasidic Jews, right, they go to places in upstate New York and they buy up whole areas and they live there amongst just themselves. But they don't incorporate towns, usually. It's different if you're trying to incorporate something where there's a law, or that's different than, say, a bunch of people who might be Chinese decide to go and live in a part of Manhattan that ends up being where a lot of Chinese people live. That's called Chinatown, right? Which is in Lower Manhattan. But they didn't create that. That's just a bunch of people began to live in an area, right? That used to be how New York was. There was areas that were more Italian. There were areas that were Irish. There were areas that were Jewish. Right? And then that began to change over time. There's too many Indian people here on H-1B visas. That's my take on it. And that's fact. Trump presented with risky secret Iran plan using U.S. ground troops as oil prices plunge. Global economy into chaos. The problem is you got, in places like California where they have an extra add-on price to their fuel, an extra tax, the diesel is getting up to over $6 a gallon in some of these places. You know what that means? How do you think you get most of your food? It's by truck. Most trucks run on diesel. Not all, but most. Some smaller trucks run not on diesel, but the big 18-wheeler rigs, most of those are diesel, I think. And so when diesel becomes super expensive, the people that send you your food, who ship your food to you, have to raise the price of how much that food costs to offset the price of fuel. Mars and back in just 153 days, scientists have found a shortcut that could dramatically cut the time it takes to reach the red planet. I wrote, there's long been rumors of jump rooms that take one to Mars in moments, not days. Is that true? I think we already have jump rooms. I've heard of certain elevator you can get in, and a certain key is turned, and that something that happens in that elevator, and then all of a sudden you're in Mars. So I'm assuming that these elevators are created along portals that exist on Earth, that they've identified where portals exist, or there's certain people that can create portals, right? I'm pretty sure. Biden's decision to free Detroit drug dealer backfires horribly just 14 months later. So he let this guy out on a pardon. He committed another crime. What do they call that? There's a term for it, right? When you commit another crime. Recidivism rate, right? The recidivism rate. How many guys who get out of jail go right back to jail? Some guys almost go right back, right? They're so institutionalized, they don't understand how to live on the outside world anymore. They can't hack it. So they commit another crime, they get caught, they go back in. It's a sick cycle. Self-declared king of Switzerland builds empire of 117,000 square meters by systematically claiming ownerless land, sparking fury among politicians. This was an interesting case where there's a rule in Switzerland that if the land is ownerless, you can claim that land. It's sort of like the squatter rule here, where let's say you come across a homestead that's obviously been abandoned, right? You can see that it's been abandoned. The house is overrun with flowers, and the land itself isn't being used. There's nobody there, but there was once somebody there. Technically, in some states, you can take over that land, start living there, start to improve that land, and then in some cases that land could become your land, right? In some states, the way the law is now, squatters' rights and such. It usually has to be certain things have to come into play on that land, which is that, for one, it has to have been abandoned for a very long time. Usually, I think at least like a decade or more. But there's some people who go through records and they can find this stuff, right? That's what this guy did over there. And he's now got so much land that he's got roads in certain areas that he can charge tolls on. And, he's becoming a player, right? Which is super interesting. Because the politicians are pissed. They're like, you're taking too much stuff up. And he's now claiming he's the king, this kid. I think this is a super interesting story because it could end up toppling the oligarchy. And he could end up becoming the new... Maybe this kid's going to do the right thing, right? Who knows? Maybe he could topple the oligarchy itself. If this guy can get one rich family, right? Where, let's say, they're sort of on the side of the good in this thing, right? And they decide, hey, you know what? We own 1,500 hectares or acres or whatever meters of land. And Grandpa decides, I like this kid for whatever the reason. I'm redoing my estate, and I'm leaving all my estate to the King of Switzerland, this kid. That could change things in a major radical way and help to maybe even free Switzerland from the grip of who knows, right? Secret Pentagon project to merge soldiers and machines exposed amid fears of futuristic military tech. I had heard about this long time before. If you see the movie, the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie was one movie that they made about it, Supersoldiers. Why hasn't the fact that the military have been abducting people and using them in MILABS programs, which is military abduction programs, for decades? When will this all come to light, if ever, right? I'm very, very interested in this, of course, because of my own personal story as well as others that I've, like James Rink and others who claimed that they were also experimented on. And, I had wanted to attend some of the James Rink things that he had done, but I was always had something in the back of my mind was saying, don't go. You could be in danger if you go to these events because then they could see you. They know who you are. And they sometimes send people to these things who are maybe, remote viewers, and others who are like trying to hurt you, right? Or witches or others that are trying to maybe hurt you and do spells on you and other, right? That's what it looked like happened to James Rink. He also appeared sick to me. So it's very important that you take care of yourself right now. It's super important. It's so easy not to, right? Brawls break out among migrants waiting to register in Spain after socialist prime minister threw open the doors. Now people are fighting to get in because not everybody's going to get in, right? As it emerges, many granted legal status could have criminal records. Are you checking these people's Interpol or anything in their own countries first before you're letting them in? Or are you just letting everybody come in like most of them do it? Because if you just let anybody come in, you could get some criminal elements. Sinaloa governor and 9 Mexican officials face U.S. drug charges. Something's going on in Mexico. And Scheinbaum's trying to stop it, but she can't. Ecuador awards China rights to develop its largest gold mine. That's concerning. China's moving into Ecuador's largest gold mine. They're taking it over to... They're going to spike demand. Going to be more gold. Because gold is expensive now. Judge dismisses DOJ lawsuit demanding Arizona voter rolls. Why do we need to see Arizona's voter rolls? They're corrupted, obviously, right? Remember when... What turns out, I think, is that the Flynn people ended up being the one that paid for cyber ninjas to show... to cover it up. To show that there was nothing when there was something. To make it look like they were doing something, but they never were going to do anything. Because like I said, Biden had to come in. If they're in on it with them, if the Democrats and the Repubs are both in on it together, then they needed Biden to come, the fake Biden to come in as part of the plan. He was going to open the floodgates of the country up. He was going to destabilize it. And then you get Trump coming in as the Trojan horse. Hey, I'll save you. Yeah, we're going to need some 15-minute cities because they let the cities get out of control. We're going to have to curtail your movement in the cities for a while until we get all the illegal aliens out, right? You can't travel for a while, okay? And then on the meantime, we're letting all these illegal aliens come in to take all certain jobs away. And then guess what? We're replacing a lot of the other jobs with robots at the same time. So you're going to get screwed. You're not going to have a job anymore. And if we don't release the funds that you're owed, then you're going to starve, right? Because you won't have a job and you won't be able to find one, not a decent one, and... Right? That's what they're trying to do. Then they got full control over you. Then you're begging for the government to help you, right? FCC orders Disney review over Jimmy Kimmel's Melania Trump comments. There should be a rule that these shows have to stick to just do comedy, no propaganda. If the propaganda starts coming in, you just get canceled after 3 warnings. Right? These should just be fun shows that make you laugh. They shouldn't be about propaganda. The whole rest of the news is about propaganda all day long. All the programs you watch are propaganda. Can we have something that's not propaganda? Devin Nunes got fired from Trump media. He lost $1 billion. So Trump, they were saying, oh yeah, that Trump site's doing so well. They lost $1 billion. Later, Devin. You're not doing such a great job. I wouldn't have hired him. Out of all the other people you could have hired, why'd you hire this guy? What does he know about media? SCOTUS weighs whether temporary status for foreign migrants is actually temporary. Federalist. Paxton ramps up H-1B fraud probe. He further announced an array of businesses to the investigation, citing reports of ghost offices and suspected abuse. So that's what they're doing. They're setting up ghost businesses and offices. Yeah, these guys are working for XB Corporation. And when you go find it, look up where XB Corporation's corporate headquarters are, it's some old motel room. Right? In some old motel complex that some guy bought on the side of Route 96 somewhere, right? Oh, is it an office building with office space? No, it's a hotel room. 1 bedroom. It's a hotel room with 2 beds, with the beds are removed in a bathroom. That's HK Industries. Right? Now, times that out by 1,000 other fake companies, and we can import all hundreds of different Indian men into this country, right? I sense a large influx of Indian males headed back to India soon. And that's good for Texas. House approves renewal of warrantless spy powers resolution despite concerns. So you just let the same stuff that you said they spied on Trump illegally with, and you let them do it again and renew that stuff, right? FISA. You just renewed FISA. The legislation, which still needs to pass the Senate by Friday, will renew Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA. Did Comey threaten Trump's assassination to boost his book sales? If that was your way to boost your book sales, that was kind of stupid because it led to your incarceration, right? You can't enjoy your book sales in jail. I mean, you can. Your commissary will always be full, but I wouldn't call that enjoyment. Being in jail sucks. You don't want to be in jail. Trust me on that. There's a name for what they're doing to Donald Trump. Why did Trump keep Comey on for so long when he knew that he was an Obama plant, right? He knew he was Obama's guy. Why would you keep him on? He wasn't running the FBI particularly well. In fact, he had destroyed the FBI and made it full of traitors to the country, right? Like Strzok and Page. How did Trump not know that Comey was a bad candidate? How did he not vet him properly? I mean, you didn't even have to vet him. You just should have got rid of him because he was Obama's flunky. And you should have got rid of him and the 5 people underneath him. In every agency, in every part of the FBI, you do the same. You could have easily cleared it out. And then you go and put Dan Bongino in there, who has no experience running any agency at all, knows nothing about the FBI and its inner workings. You put Kash Patel at the head, who has no idea how to run a large agency, has no idea how the FBI runs, doesn't know the inner workings of the FBI. How are they going to fix it? They're 2 outsiders that are trying to fix something and they don't know how it works. They don't know who to trust. They don't know the inner workings. They don't know who the good agents are and who the bad agents are. They know absolutely nothing. Why would you put those guys in? They're the worst candidate for that. Mexico's Scheinbaum-backed Sinaloa governor demands U.S. evidence. Something's going on where you saw these people drove off the cliffside who were, looked like they were CIA. They were working inside Mexico, but they were pretending to be something they weren't, right? Why Jeffrey Epstein's purported suicide note is still being kept secret. Time to say goodbye, quote unquote. Where's Epstein's suicide note? Why did they have a sleep apnea machine allowed in the room with them when he was on suicide watch and no device with a cord should have been in his room? Why was a sleep apnea machine allowed in his room? New York rabbi was found dismembered and stuffed in a closet after being killed by Colombian gang. So this guy went down to Colombia because he was trying to find a young girl to marry, apparently. And he had found an 18-year-old he was going to marry, and that didn't work out, apparently. So I don't know what this guy might be doing, sex trafficking, who knows what he's doing. But he ended up stuffed in a closet, cut up into a bunch of pieces. That usually is to send a message, right? Don't come back down here, you people who are doing this. Don't come back down here. Trump removes tariffs on Scottish whiskey after King Charles III's visit leaves the president singing royal praises. Why did you raise tariffs on only one kind of alcohol for? Because the prince asked, the king asked you to do it? Does he get a piece of that money? Does his country? Yeah. Where's Trump's family from? They're from Scotland. That's where his family goes back to, right? I think. The grandfather comes over. He starts exploiting the miners. You know what he's selling the miners as food, by the way, on the Dead Horse Trail where he had a tent at one point? He's selling them the dead horses from the trail as the meat for the stew that he's giving them. It's a brilliant idea, really. He doesn't have a meat source. How's he going to find meat? Well, all these dead horses are laying frozen solid on the trail that these guys are running their horses half to death to try to get to the gold, right? With all their stuff, dragging these horses thousands of miles in some cases to get to Alaska. Well, so I got a bunch of dead fresh meat right here. It's all dead laying along the roadside. All I got to do is go grab a couple horses, cut them up, thaw them out, and cut them up, right? So that's how he's making his profit. He's following the miners, exploiting them, charging overpriced amounts for basic food and basic lodging, and making a fortune. Socialist LA City Council members move to give non-citizens the vote in local elections. Plus, he's getting paid sometimes in gold, which he's sending that gold back east, which his sisters are about using to acquire land in New York City. That's how they start to... That's how Trump's dad has so much land, because he bought up a big part of Brooklyn. They bought up a huge chunk of Brooklyn at one point, the Trump family. They had $600 million worth of real estate just in Brooklyn alone at one point. And that was back in, that was like 90s money or, whatever. So if you're thinking about 600 million, that's billions today. And that was all given to Trump. He didn't just get $1 million seed loan from his dad. He got it all. He got all the money because he talked his father into writing out the older brother out of the will because he was an alcoholic. Remember? That's how he got all the money. Political heir 25, who was left $5 million in Jeffrey Epstein's will, kills himself just days after the investigation into parents was launched. So this guy's, right, he's got left $5 million by Epstein, and he's like, oh shit, man, they're going to find out what I did soon. I got to off myself. I don't want to go to jail for 25 years or whatever I was doing. What was this guy's connection to Epstein? Maybe I can look into that a little bit, right? Moment Spandau Ballet rapist Ross Davidson smirks and huffs as he's arrested for raping and sexually abusing 6 women. So Spandau Ballet was a big 80s band, not 60s, sorry. Big 80s band was Spandau Ballet. And, like some other rockers, he's now being accused of raping women. A lot of these guys were doing a lot of drugs. And a lot of women are around on drugs, and stuff happens. And it's not good, usually, right? Mysterious UFO spotted near America's secretive military testing site disappears without explanation. Yeah, they got cloaked. This stuff can cloak itself. That's the problem. It's just like the Klingons, man. Klingons are real, dude. Got cloaking tech. Minnesota investigators were bullied into burying Somali childcare scam 10 years ago before Tim Walz shut down anti-fraud office, whistleblower claims. How are they bullied? I don't understand. Because you have Ilhan Omar, I guess, is the state running that state. That's a powerful person against you. You don't want them starting investigations into your business or you, right? So I guess that's possible that could have happened. Bombshell sex harassment suit against Lorna Hajini, JP Morgan branded complete fabrication. So you saw a lot of these people were running with this story saying, oh yeah, this guy, look at what this woman did. But did you see what the guy looks like, this googly-eyed dude? Sorry to make jokes about the guy, but I mean, it's not like this woman is obviously an attractive lady. I kind of doubt that you're the guy she's going to risk her whole entire career for. Yeah, she's going to put her whole career at JP Morgan at risk for you because you're such a great lay, right? Give me a fucking break. Look at this guy. This is the dude. This is the dude that's so drop-dead gorgeous that she just decided, I'm going to just throw it all away so I could screw this guy. Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, look at this woman. She's pretty hot. I mean, 9 out of 10 guys, if you saw her at the bar and she came up to you and started smiling, had that smile at you, with those pretty smile and those eyes, and said, hey, how are you? You wouldn't be all over that, talking back? Of course you would. This guy? You're telling me it was all for this guy. Okay. And I'm not trying to be mean, but I mean, this guy is obviously not like, he's not Romeo. He's not Brad Pitt, 1994. He's not... he's not Robert Redford. I don't get it. And all these pundits, oh, this guy, look at what this girl did. Look at what she did. She called him her little brown boy. Come on. Armed WHCD suspect shooter Cole Allen seen bolting through the metal detector. Yeah. So much for manning the metal detector station, I wrote. If one guy's setting it up, why is everybody's attention not the other way? Right? The ballroom is behind where these guys are, which means their attention should not be at the ballroom. It should be facing out from the ballroom, right? You want to see the threat coming before it gets anywhere near the ballroom. These guys all got what they call caught unawares, right? You saw how they all weren't expecting anything? They got caught unawares. But you should have been aware because the actual event was already still going on, it looked like. Everybody was inside. Which, what does that mean? That all the people had already gone through the metal detector. So he waited This guy waited until everybody was through, and it looks like they're breaking down the station, not setting it up, right? Because everyone's inside already. So he's hoping he could bust through there and not set it off, right? Bolt into the room and maybe get a couple of shots off? It doesn't sound like that great of a plan, because the way you're setting it up is you're probably not going to even get to the room, because there's 18 people between you and the room, or 10, and you don't have enough, and you're alone, right? But he gets a shot off, and then one of the guys shoots at him, and nobody else manages to hit this guy if other shots are fired, which I find hard to believe. He should have been lit up like Swiss cheese. Instead, they managed to tackle the guy. He's not hurt at all. It all smells real bad. So much for manning the metal detector station. Whether you're breaking it down, still, your attention should be to the outside, right? Not away from the outside, because the outside's where the threat will come. It's not going to come from behind you. Behind you is secure. There's other agents and people behind you. You know that. So that was a major lapse in security for a bunch of different reasons. And I'm not even a major security person. I just worked in security for a time. I never ran security groups. I never ran a whole company. I was just a security guard. But I can even see that that's not the way it should have been. You should have been at attention the whole time that thing's going on, and then the only time you're not at attention is if you're either relieved from your post or everything's over and you're in the cleanup stage where the president has left the building and now the threat is nullified, right, because he's gone. Until the president leaves the building, you're on point. You should be, because the threat still exists to him, possibly, right? Bill would bar sex criminals from getting federal pensions in wake of Eric Swalwell scandal. Yeah, if you're a politician and you get caught up in a scandal like this and you get found guilty, you shouldn't get your pension. Same for a president, even. DOJ sues New Jersey over tuition aid for some non-citizen students. You shouldn't get any tuition if you're not a citizen. It's only for U.S. citizens get college tuition. You can get college loans. You have to be a U.S. citizen. Give them your social security number, right? New footage of Trump assassination attempt released. Here's what it shows. It shows one of the cops got off a shot, but he missed and he almost shot another cop. The move there would have really been, the guy's coming in shooting, so what do you got to, respond in kind. You can't bum rush the guy. He's got a shotgun pointed at you, right? It's happening too quick. Ship allegedly carrying stolen Ukrainian grain seen sailing away from Israel after importer refuses to unload cargo. That's interesting. You trying to go around the embargo? Sinaloa governor and 9 Mexican officials face U.S. drug charges. Something's going on. They caught something. They caught some people over there in some drug stuff. Which isn't, that unusual, right? I mean, Mexico is highly corrupt. Stunning moment, canine dog appears to sniff out the WHCD gunman just moments before. Yeah, the dog did sniff him out, and the cop pulled him back. The cop should have gone in that room and secured it, and he didn't. More evidence this was a staged event, I wrote. Shocking moment, none is pushed over and repeatedly kicked in Jerusalem amid claims of a rise in attacks targeting Christians. That was highly upsetting because it's a Jewish male that did it too, which you wouldn't expect. I wouldn't, anyway. I thought for sure, that's a Palestinian guy or something. Nope. Now, is that agitation prop? Oh, yeah. That's the hardest, strongest form of it right there, because he did something really, really egregious, right? What did he do? He knocked over an old nun and then kicked her in the fucking ribs a couple of times for effect after, right? He didn't just walk away after pushing her down, which is bad enough, right? She could have broken her wrist or her hand or arm. He had to go turn back and start kicking her. Jewish suspect, I wrote. 2 largest teacher unions spent over $1 billion on political activity and advocacy since 2015. When you tie in money coming from the state and local level in the political game plan of teacher unions, it's just one giant political machine that's trying to take control of everything, Staley said. Yeah, the political mechanism. It's been in place since Boss Tweed's day and even before. Different parts of the country. Congress continues to defer to White House over approval of Iran war as deadline passes. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Republican from South Dakota, said on Thursday that he has no plans to authorize the use of force in Iran or otherwise intervene, while the Trump administration argues that the law doesn't apply because the ceasefire in early April ended major hostilities. Well, Trump is claiming that hostilities are over, right? But it doesn't mean that they are necessarily. You don't get to say, if you start attacking somebody in a fight, usually you don't get to then say, hey, I'm done, unless the person's knocked out, right? If I punch you in the face, right, and we get into something, we get into a fight, and then, maybe you punch me in the face a couple of times and I'm starting to get hurt, and I go, oh, hey, wait, can you stop now? I'm sorry that I decided to attack you. You're really hurting me, though. Can you stop now? Most people in New York, or at least, would laugh at you and then kick your ass. Knock your ass straight the fuck out. And then they'd stop, right? After probably kicking you a few more times. If you're lucky. Some people will kick your hat so many times they kill you. It just depends on who you're dealing with, right? My point is that you don't get to say when a fight's over after you started a fight. Unless you knock the person clean out. Then you could say it's over. Because they ain't getting back up to say anything, right? But if I just punch you in the face and then you start coming back and you start getting the upper hand, I can't just say, hey, stop now. It don't work like that. Unless the person is extremely resilient and decides to stop. But most people, when you attack them, don't stop because they've been attacked. They're going to fight back until the threat's nullified. Dominican illegal alien wanted by Interpol for murder is released from ICE custody by Biden-appointed Rhode Island judge. The judge released the fugitive on grounds of continuous unlawful detention. But this guy's he's on Interpol. He's a murder suspect. Hello? It's not unlawful. He's a murder suspect. He's a danger to the community. Judge rules Texas must permit 400-acre Muslim city to be built. The ruling opens the door for a 402-acre Muslim community that includes more than 1,000 homes, apartment buildings, a K-12 Islamic school, a mosque, health clinics, retail stores, and more. I said, this sounds illegal. House votes to fund DHS except for ICE, Border Patrol. Bill moves to Trump's desk. The bill is passed, will now go to President Donald Trump's desk to be signed. So you still have no ICE funding or Border Patrol? How is this? Why are you putting this bill through? It doesn't make any sense. Trump signs 45-day extension of FISA Section 702. So he extended FISA. I don't know why. Maha notches a victory on Capitol Hill as GOP agrees to drop special pesticide protections. I just watched a video that claims using zinc along with copper in the soil and around crops can create a barrier to most flying and pests and bugs. Copper meshing in the soil or copper wire in the soil next to plantings and then tied into a pole on either end or of the garden, right, which is of zinc, which is a copper and a zinc pole next to each other with the copper wire then wrapped through those two poles, right, will create through the Earth's natural resonant field a barrier to most bugs. I think that's true. That's why I think they stopped talking about copper for a long time, because copper is an amazing metal. It's people used to drink out of copper cups to clean their water, right? Why do you think that they used to use copper pipes to put your water into your house? There you go. Why did they switch from copper pipes to PVC plastic? Now you understand why, right? Because they started to pollute your water by putting certain chemicals into your water, and they didn't want those to be nullified by copper in any sense, so they stopped using copper. Using zinc along with copper in the soil and around crops can create that barrier. It's an Amish tool. There's also Amish tools where if you take they build their barns and houses with copper wire inside the house and the wood so that there can be no mold. If you then tie that copper wire that you put through the house into a piece of copper that's tied into the earth outside the house, you're grounding that right? You're grounding the whole house in a sense in that energy where molds can't exist. The mold spores can't reproduce in that energy. It's genius. It's freaking genius. And now with the help of Instagram and others who are coming out with different sites, people are realizing, holy cow, that all these Amish tricks are like good tricks, and that's why that nobody's talking about it. That's why they started to, after World War II, use fertilizer, because they had all this nitrogen and they didn't know what to do with it all, right? They were making bombs with it before, but you can also use it to make, but you don't need this stuff. All you need is copper wire and copper and zinc and copper wire, copper mesh running around your plants to protect them naturally from bugs and pests. So if you got a chance, try to use some copper wire. Try to get some copper and zinc and use them around in your garden and see if it works, right? Look up Amish gardening techniques, electroculture, and different things like this to have a pesticide-free garden that is also free of pesticides. That's the big deal, right? To have a bug-free and pest-free garden, also free of pesticide or any pesticide use. So you have completely fresh food that's never had anything. Of course, they're chemtrailing, so you might want to do a greenhouse, but whatever, right? I'm just saying you can, and there's other ways to make your soil better. You can use rice in the soil. You can use rice and water to water your plants. Apparently, a lot of plants like rice water. It's good for your crops to make them grow faster. Electroculture can make your crops grow bigger and faster. So try different things and see what works for you. The last thing you should be trying is a pesticide, is my point. That should be your last ditch effort, right? The first thing you should try is these things first, because they're cheap and they're not that expensive. You can use the same copper wire year in and year out too. The mold aspect of it, the anti-mold aspect of it is important. So many people's homes are filled with mold. FedEx, UPS pledged to refund customers after Supreme Court tariff decision. Shipping giants FedEx and UPS say they will pass through tariff refunds. Mamdani tax break proposal sparks fears as business leaders warn a fragile New York City economy. Billionaire CEO warns middle-income pros and small business owners could leave the city. Yeah, they are already leaving. Oregon forced to clean almost 20% of its voters off the rolls because they are ineligible. Rand Paul introduces an amendment to end birthright citizenship. That's the other big thing. Birthright citizenship bill might go through the end all birthright citizenship. That would mean that millions of Chinese and other people have to leave this country and go back to China. That could be a massive boon to this country, and it could hurt China a lot because they're already struggling, and if they have to now take back hundreds of thousands of more people, maybe, or millions, they're not going to be able to incorporate those people. Latest migrant caravan in southern Mexico begins to dissolve. That's good. They're stopping that. Scientist reveals AI chatbot gave him instructions for how to create and deploy a genocidal bioweapon. Yeah, it was answering questions that I hadn't thought to ask it with this level of deviousness and cunning that I just found chilling. This is the problem that, in the past, a lot of these times, some of these acts that people try to plan, they're just stupid about it. They don't know how to do anything. But if you let an AI chatbot plan it out for you, that could be way more devastating. Let's hope that never happens. New York Archdiocese pitches $800 million to settle child sex abuse claims. That's just in New York. And you're talking about almost $1 billion settlement. How many children did this group of people molest? You're talking about thousands. You're talking about thousands of people's lives destroyed, if not tens of thousands, right? If it's that much money. They're warning of bankruptcy if the offer is rejected. That's how close they are to the edge, how much money they had to give back. These people should be really closed down in some way, and the whole thing needs to be rethought out in some way, right? It's this mechanism that's being used to hurt people. And you're using a religious mechanism to do it. DHS bars Dem ex-rep Sheila Cherfilis McCormick and her family and friends from federal funds over alleged $5 million FEMA theft. Wow, that's a lot. A lot of people ripped off stuff during COVID, right? Those loans and stuff that people took, a lot of people didn't deserve those loans. I was checking out Ari at Home's home stream. He was on for like almost 5 hours he made basically a whole LP like in 4 hours. A whole LP worth of music in like 4 hours. It's unheard of. He could be Mozart reincarnated. That's the first thought I got when I start thinking about that guy. He's just insanely gifted, talented musician. He's got beats and lyrics in his head for days. He's a poet as well as, I would think, as well as a musician. He's a talented lyricist. And, he's doing a lot to help this city. He's bringing the city vibe back up, and that's a good thing. So I like Ari. He's going to be at Brooklyn Bowl, apparently. He's got a local show. If you want to get out and see Ari at Home, if you're in the city, you can. He's got tickets for sale at the Brooklyn Bowl. I'm not affiliated with Ari in any way. I'm not. I don't get anything if you go see Ari. I'm just saying he's going to do his own show if you're interested in checking out Ari at Home. Hunter Biden's lavish lifestyle may cost him big bucks. Child support battle. Yeah, he's hanging out at Coachella. I mean, I thought you were broke. You're telling your wife and your child, your ex-stripper wife and child that you don't have any money, right? So why are you hanging out at Coachella doing drugs, I'm assuming, right? CIA's mind control program in turmoil after scientist's mysterious death. What mind control program? I thought you were done with all those. Oh, you're still doing mind control. Oh, I see. You're still doing it, aren't you? In some way. Sure you are. Brazil Congress approves measure cutting Jair Bolsonaro's sentence. So they cut his sentence down. Interesting. Muslim religious leader arrested for abuse of multiple children at Queen's Mosque. Tajul Islam, 55, was taken into custody on Monday by the Queen's Child Abuse Squad. Here's another religious leader, not the Catholic Church this time. It's the Muslim religion that's now abusing its own, I'm assuming, right? So pedophiles are in every religion. The Jewish religion, Christian religion, Catholicism, Muslim religion. Look at what happened with the Buddhism religion. Look at what happened with the Dalai Lama licking that kid's tongue in front of you. I mean, they're showing it to you. Telling the kid, you kiss my tongue in front of all these people? You mind? You think Buddha's all right with that? I don't. It's not what Buddha's teachings say. That's not what Buddha's about. Pew, human biohazard camps outside historic church. So this guy took a dump in his pants. And I've seen this kind of person about 5,000 different times. They usually are riding the subway when you're trying to go to work. And they're sleeping in the subway, they do drugs, they shit themselves, and then they just lay there in their own, and then you got to deal with it. If you're ever in the rush hour and you see one train car that nobody's in, that's why. I remember one day I was waiting for the subway. It's rush hour. I'm in a suit and tie job. I hate that. I'm miserable. I'm in the subway full of people waiting for the train. Train comes. All the cars are packed to the gills except this one, the third car. For some reason, it looks like there's room. It's amazing. I've never seen it. There's so much space. I'm going to grab that. I might even get a seat today. Well, as soon as the door opens, you are greeted with the smell of human excrement. Hello. And that's something you don't want to smell first thing in the morning when you're still having your coffee, right? And I couldn't believe it. So the car stunk so bad, I ended up having to ride in between the cars till the next stop to be able to get into the next car. But that was even better to ride in between the cars than staying there. And some people were staying in there with the smell of it. It was disgusting. So the cops show up. They try to help the guy. He doesn't want help. Oh, he's still hanging out there. What a nightmare this city is sometimes, I tell you. You see and smell things you never thought you'd ever see or smell here. I'll tell you that right now. Both good and bad. Socialists in Mamdani's alma mater bowed in to host Mayor's Israel-hating dad and Marxist influencer Hassan Piker. There needs to be more protests when these types of people come on college campuses. Like, they always protest if somebody from, like a Jewish group or whatever is on the campus, they seem to love to protest. Well, why doesn't the other way around? There should be protests against these groups of people too when they're trying to have communist meetings on your college campus. I would be against that if I was at that college. I would peacefully protest. Of course, you always want to peacefully protest. But some of these people don't believe in peaceful protest, like they shoved Savannah Hernandez down. They weren't protesting her being there. You don't like the press? That's okay. You don't have to like it. But you don't get the right to go beat up Wolf Blitzer because you don't like what he's talking about, right? Sinister racket outside Home Depot that you're paying for. I just showed you that, right? They got the Home Depot workers right there by Home Depot. They got a little office for them now, so you can just pull up right there and get the illegal alien working for you right away. No problem, right? It's all nice and neat and tidy. There are already hubs in many blue cities for illegal alien workers to gather for day labor work. There's no need to make it even easier for them, right? Because it's illegal. You shouldn't be allowed to hire a day labor worker who's an illegal alien here and pay him all cash so he doesn't have to pay taxes. Right? That's illegal. Central Park worker got sacked for sleeping on the job, sues for disability. I was shocked. He says, well, he's got sleep apnea. And hey, I get tired. I got to take a nap once in a while. It doesn't work like that, boss. You can't do the job, then don't do the job. Your sleep apnea isn't a reason that you get to have an extra sleep break during your shift. It doesn't work like that. We're not paying you to sleep. Hollywood auctioned off to Middle Eastern royalty as industry struggles to survive. Hollywoodland is dying, I wrote. They're dying. They can't make... I mean, what was the biggest movie last year? Was like, what was it? The Tom Cruise movie? There was a remake of the stupid, Top Gun, right? Top Gun was the biggest fucking movie. Okay. It used to be one of only multiple blockbusters you'd put out. Now you're lucky to do anything big. Yeah, you had a few big ones, but not like they used to be. People aren't going to movies. These new generations are not going to movies the way they used to. And that's good. TPM reporter Katie Davenport assaulted and mobbed by Antifa during Portland anti-ICE May Day riot, struck in face with a rock. Here's another reporter that was also attacked by Antifa. So Antifa's attacking reporters now. They're going to come for me. Ex-FBI deputy director reveals he's living in fear as he issues astonishing warnings. So now Dan Bongino's coming out and he's scared, he's saying. Trump declares hostilities with Iran terminated. But the regime is still intact, I wrote. It's not over. Does Islam work? PJ Media article you could check out. Iran, more fighting possible after Trump rejected peace proposal. Nigeria declares emergency in the north. UPI News. There's a problem in Nigeria. Iran war likely to restart. With 1 million per body in place, some in Congress are asking if organ donors are declared dead too quickly. Yeah, you're damn right they are. You better be careful. If you have that on your license, I have it on mine. Next time I re-up the license, I'm going to take it off. For that reason, because God forbid you do get in some kind of accident where you're not really hurt that bad and they realize, hey, this guy's got a lot of viable organs we could use. They might just put you to death, right? Because it's worth more. You're worth more dead than alive. Ilhan Omar's name came up 6 times in a $250 million fraud case after she loosened oversight of Fed-funded food programs. So that's interesting. Her name came up in a fraud case. California's population plummets for the first time since the pandemic as LA sees staggering exodus. Comey, ex-Harvard scientist, defects to China to help build army of AI supersoldiers. That's the article I was talking about. Former top scientist from Harvard University is defected to China. Charles Lieber, the former chair of Harvard's chemistry department. Is this guy connected to Epstein? I got a feeling. I don't know why. He's resurfaced as the founding director of Shenzhen's Institute for Brain Research, Advanced Interfaces and Neural Technologies, also known as iBrain. Scientists in the military wing of the Chinese Communist Party have been working on brain-computer interfaces. Lieber is one of the world's leading researchers in the field to boost mental agility and situational awareness to engineer super soldiers. So this guy just defected? He was convicted in 2021 of lying to feds about his ties to China, and now he's defected to China. This is unbelievable. They got to get this guy back. Woke bills could spring New York's worst killers, including Son of Sam and John Lennon assassin. They're talking about letting Son of Sam back out? Are you kidding me? What do you want to make another summer of fear? Mob of teens storms Times Square Scientology church amid viral speed running trend. Brutal rape festival in Nigeria sparks outrage worldwide after a horrifying video of men chasing women through street surfaces. I don't know what these people are doing. Secret Service detained man at Trump golf course just days after gunmen stormed the White House Correspondents' Dinner. So now they're trying to make it that there's another guy, another killer, possible. Knifeman stabs woman to death in random street attack in front of terrified bystanders in Barcelona. So now you got these guys he let in. They're all, from African nations and different places. And now guess what they're starting to do? They're starting to kill people. They're starting to attack people. 3 key forces driving UFO disclosure as Trump prepares files release. But the question is, are you just going to show us a bunch of old photos? What about real aliens? We want to see a live alien that's here. We want to see a live craft floating and going. We want to see you in a craft, and then we want to see you go cloak, and then we want to see you come out of cloak, and then we want to see you drive across country in it. We want CNN on board and all those people. We want to see it. I want 10 different influencers live streaming the event. I want everybody holding that day's newspaper. I want multiple different aliens to come out. I want all that, or else it's not going to be real to me. It's just going to be a bunch of bullshit. Secret Service detained man at Trump golf course. House Republican makes shocks claim about Trump assassination attempt being an inside job. It appears to me it was. Here's again the sinister racket outside Home Depot that you're paying for. Top Anthony Fauci advisor indicted for criminal conspiracy. 14,000 SNAP recipients driving luxury vehicles. And Comey, ex-Harvard scientist, defecting to China. That's a big story. Trying to make Supersoldiers. So Supersoldiers exist. He just said they did, right? Supersoldiers exist. He just said they did. So friends, I hope you're well. It's another 2.5 hour movie. I'm sorry. I tried my best, but we got to do what we got to do in these times. It appears to me that Trump is in a bad way right now. He has many different people criticizing him. Some of his base is eroding due to there not being any big arrests. Although Comey is sort of big. Comey started something. Maybe that'll... But that was a long time coming and should have been way before. When will there be major arrests? When will we see the release of hidden technologies like medical beds and UFOs and UFO aliens that are on this planet that may be doing secret programs that we don't even know exist? There was recently a big earthquake swarm in Area 5152. There was apparently a UFO was seen in that area that then disappeared. So there's so many UFO sightings at this point. It's just insane. I mean, just show us what's going on already. Show us what you've reverse engineered. Show us what aliens you are working with on this planet. Show us what secret DUMBs exist. Show us what MyLabs programs existed. Show us, give people the information that they need now. If you don't, they're going to remember it, and you're going to be remembered as a traitor to this country because you didn't do the right thing when it was needed. So I hope you're doing well, my friends, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. Using the I am attribution if you so choose each day to say I am and something positive about yourself. I hope you're doing well. We'll continue to watch these people and hold them to account for what they've done. We'll continue to report on factual events as they happen. I hope you're well, friends, working out, stretching. This is your friend in New York, Ash, NPMP News, signing off for now.